Hello, welcome to the podcast. I'm your host, Jay Scott. I'm joined by Tony Turns at RT. How are you, Tony?
Bonjour, I'm doing very good.
Good.
It's a bit rainy today. Well,
Yeah.
rain, spitting, I suppose.
I hope not.
And it is a Sunday.
I hope you're not spitting at me.
No.
I bite my thumb at thee, as a Shakespeare play would say.
Yeah. I assume that's a thing that happened back in the day.
Did you ever watch that like modern Shakespeare? Is it Shakespeare in Love?
Like the
Romeo,
biker
the Romeo
gang
and
sort of.
the Romeo and Juliet. Is that the one? Where they
You know
have
what, the biker gang stuff at like the petrol station doing it.
They have like a gun, a bunch of guns, and they're like, "I bite my thumb at thee."
Mm-hmm.
I
think
we're showing that in like English class, and it was like, what the fuck is happening?
Oh, really?
Yeah.
We were actually in drama class, so.
Oh, okay. It's a little English. It's a lot of drama.
Little
column B. What's up?
Just to start off this podcast with a swear word, like fuck drama lessons in school, man. I'm not all about that.
I think ultimately, like, it helps people come out of their shell more. I think it is net positive. Maybe.
Yeah, but I dread it every time, so I feel like it did not help. It's a no from me.
Maybe it's one of those things you get more out of it the more you put into it.
Maybe, but I did not want to put anything into it, so I feel like it should be optional.
Yeah. Anyway, yeah, it's a podcast. We just had Gamescom over in Germany, which means we just had a huge dump of news. Gaming trailers and gaming tech. Our friends over at Nvidia and AMD were like, yo, technology, yo, card. Well, Nvidia's given up on making consumer graphics cards, but
yeah,
AMD's
well, maybe we should pick up the slack.
Trying to. Anything you want to talk about this week before we get into it?
Well, I was going to say that we will be talking about Guild Wars 2 stuff, but I have not played it. I just
it's in the docket for releases.
Yes,
and it was very easy to track the release. Now it's on Steam because I can just look at the Steam releases.
Yeah,
it's a lot harder to track stuff when it's not on Steam. I have to be like, oh yeah, I think Final Fantasy 16 came out this week, and I'm gonna look it up on like OpenCritic or something.
But I have second-hand accounts, and I might get some stuff slightly wrong because I've not played it myself. But I think I understand what was being told to me. So.
Yeah, I don't think I have any interesting news. So this week, Tony, I've been playing Quake 2 remastered expansions, the Quake 2 RTX, Golfit's 1.0 release. I've been playing that, and Super Mario 3D World. Is there any game that you're interested in hearing about? You know, it'd be a base move, Tony. You just say no. I'm not interested in any of this game. Just move on.
Let's just move on. The problem, okay. I feel like we've talked a lot about Quake already, so I can't.
Yeah, so Quake. It's not out yet. There's a super. Yeah. There's a Sonic Frontiers Tangerine that came out yesterday.
Yes.
There will be a Quake 2 Tangerine coming out on Wednesday next week. I think I've tried to space them out a bit so it's not just a million videos at once.
But I'm so glad we did the Frontiers video. Like, I feel like I got a lot off my chest. Like, I feel like I've told the internet that they're wrong, and I feel good for it.
That video has way more views than I thought it was going to.
Really? I don't keep track of
Most of our videos get 1 view, but this one's got like almost 20, and I'm like, that's huge. That's huge. Okay. I've pissed off the Sonic fans.
Wait, how many dislikes have we got? I've not.
I don't actually know. I'd have to check. I don't know. Maybe maybe people are seeing Sonic and accidentally clicking on it.
Maybe I do know YouTube still does the thing where it recommends a tiny channel every now and again.
I kind of gave up on doing thumbnails. I was like, I'll just upload a still from the actual thing. Yeah. And then I changed it. I changed it to like, okay, I will actually pick an interesting looking thumbnail, and it's like way more people click on it now. It might just be the games I'm talking about, because we did like a Kirby, and like the Mario Odyssey one got like loads of views compared to our other videos. But the thumbnail is quite interesting. It's just like an interesting picture of Mario, like a cutout. That's almost got 50 views, like that Mario Tangerine.
Yeah,
I feel like that is huge.
Maybe we should talk about Super Mario.
I gotta talk about more Mario stuff to get. I'll put the game at the bottom of the podcast as Mario, and then people will click on it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's either that or Baldur's Gate 3.
Yeah. Now let me pull up my footage that I've got recorded.
Okay. I assume we're going to do a Tangerine.
We're going to do a Tangerine on what? Sorry, Tony. We've done a Tangerine. We've done a Tangerine on golf.
On like, okay.
But I haven't done one on the one. I don't know if I'm going to do one on the 1.0 release. I don't know. I don't have footage of Golf It. I can talk about it. I can talk about it on like the games of the year, I guess, because it's coming out of early access. I really like that game. I'll start 1 minute timer.
Okay, here we go. Go until
Super Mario 3D World plus Bowser's Fury. I have not played Bowser's Fury at all, so this is purely for Super Mario 3D World. I see so much of Odyssey's DNA in this game; it's nuts. Like to reused assets and also to the like some of the movements, the power-ups, the ideas. There's some really good stuff in Super Mario 3D World, but there's also some really bad stuff. I think the biggest problem I have with this game is it cannot decide whether it's a 2D game or a 3D game, and it sort of, as a result, is never as good as either.
Yeah, because I feel like when I was watching like some of the stuff you had on Odyssey, like when you had the 2D stuff, it snapped to the plane a lot better. Whereas like when I was watching you play 3D World, it's like no, you have to be exactly correct.
Yeah, but it's like you're taking a jump.
It's like Bad Rats.
Oh, I'm on the 2D plane, but it's like no. Yeah. You're also on a 3D plane, so you also have to, you're slightly off on the other axis. I've run out of time already. Oh my god.
Yeah, like you have like what 5.5 minutes,
guys. If you're interested to hear my thoughts on Super Mario 3D World, make sure to check out the Tangerine when that comes out. Holy,
yeah, that's the minute then, is it?
Yeah, we're up. I didn't even say if I liked it.
I like the Mushroom World.
Right, let's move on. Trailers. I think I got 2 weird VR games of the week. Maybe I should have moved one to a different category, but
no, it's fine.
The first one is Far Cry 1 has a hand-tracked VR mod. So I think it was just head-tracked, and there was no hand tracking, but now it's been updated. So there was full physics hand-tracked VR for Far Cry 1, and it looks fucking awesome. I've never played Far Cry 1. I hated Far Cry 2, and I played a little bit of Far Cry 3 and enjoyed that more. But I've always been interested to go back and play Far Cry 1. That seems like it's more of like a classic linear shooter compared to like an open world thing, I believe. But again, I've never played Far Cry 1, so let's have a look. Is Far Cry 1 linear?
It's just, I feel like. I feel like it'd be an interesting experience in VR though, right? Because of of the mechanics.
Well, Tony, I'm still waiting for these bloody VR headsets to come out, and I'm.
I know.
Like, I would not play this sort of mod without a joystick VR. Fuck playing this on Vive ones. It would be so janky.
Yep.
So I'm either getting
a competitor to the PSVR 2 on PC. That'd be great.
Whenever the Quest 3 comes out, I'll be getting that. Or Valve. Valve, this is your final warning.
What do they call it? Like, what's the project called?
This is your final warning. If you do not release a VR headset, I will give Mark Zuckerberg money. I swear to God.
Gabe, you don't want that to happen. What was it like?
Deckard.
That's it.
Because it's like a Steam Deck on your face almost.
Yeah. That'd be so good. I know it's like more complicated than that, but imagine. Imagine if like iFixit repair stuff as well.
All I'm saying is the data mines on Steam right now are going crazy, pointing towards Steam doing something with like a Steam VR overhaul. So this is like massive copium, but hopefully before the end of the year, Valve's like, VR headset coming out, and I'm like, I'm locking that in. I'll get it.
I feel like the way that Valve has changed, like that it's been updating software. Like I'm talking about software only here. Like the way they're kind of phasing through, like they're going through like everything they used to have and like making everything consistent. I know that is like a good sign that like they're kind of kind of know what they want to do in the future. And yeah, and obviously like they have kind of, if they're touching on VR stuff software wise.
Yeah. Also, shout out to this guy looking absolutely fucking jacked while playing VR. That's one thing I noticed.
That's why he's jacked.
You know what? I actually think like hardcore VR players are probably like have some crazy endurance. Like when I streamed Gorilla Tag for like 3 hours, I was like, I'm dying. Like, yeah.
I feel like the only way I can trick myself into doing exercise is to do something fun in VR. I'm hoping that's true. We'll see.
Well, I think a lot of people were trying to lose weight by playing like Beat Saber. It's like they do the exercise and stuff like that.
Yeah. I feel like I could do that. I don't know if I could do that every day, but like I could definitely see myself doing it at least like once a week or twice a week, sort of thing.
But yeah, you no, we were randomly talking about Richie's plank experience like last week or the week before.
Yeah, it was the other VR that wasn't the VR.
I was like, oh, Richie's plank experience, and then I clicked on like it was Upload VR, and they were like, Richie's Plank devs are making a new VR game. I was like, what the hell? That's like a coincidental timing. So
yeah, that's good.
They're making like a Moss or a Astrobot or a Super Lucky Tail, where it's a platformer where your head's the camera and then you control a little guy. Okay. Or like Trover Saves the Universe, I think works like this as well.
I still don't understand that sort of.
So my experience with your head is the camera and you're playing a platformer is I did not like it, but I've only played Super Lucky Tail on the Oculus Dev Kit 2. So that is like the worst VR experience you can have to try out a game like that.
Absolutely, but I still have questions of why.
I don't know if you know about the Oculus Dev Kit 2, but it's essentially a phone screen. Like it's essentially like a Android phone strapped to your face. It is so jank and like it runs awfully, and you would have to point like a little webcam at yourself while you were using it. It was so jank, but it was like that's the first VR experience. It was mind blowing at the time.
But I just feel like I don't like the idea of like controlling someone else that's littler than you. Like that's like the vibe you would get because.
There's a couple of like VR demos I played where it's like a little puzzle game and you're sort of coming it from the top and you kind of can move around yourself to like look around this little static thing. I think when it's a static, like almost like a diorama and you're coming in like a god sort of character and you're picking things up, that stuff was really cool. Just the sense of scale and being.
But to me,
being able to look at something miniature.
In my head, what I want to play at that point then is like a diorama city builder in VR. Like that's what I would want. Like the theme, like you're a model train collecting, like you're building a diorama. Like that's kind of like what I would want that to be. Like, I feel like a puzzle game. Like I not like in VR,
for me. Like platforms in VR. Obviously, I'm a huge fan of Gorilla Tag, and I'm a big fan of the No More Rainbows, which has just come out. So that's the sort of stuff I like. Physical platforming in VR, which makes a lot of people physically sick, but for some reason not.
But I think that makes, but I think that makes more sense. Like if you can play that, I feel like that's what I would want from VR.
I'm more than willing to give this a try, though. It looks pretty fun.
Oh yeah.
They did eventually make like a non-VR version of Super Lucky's. I think it was Lucky's Tale. Then Super Lucky's Tale was like the non-VR version. So I might try that out at some point. I made a list of all the games I wanted to play. Currently, I'm playing Super Mario 3D World and Bowser's Fury. Next on the list is I'm gonna try to play Sekiro. I've decided my fate. I've never played a From Software game, and for some reason I've picked what people have said is the hardest one.
Is it? How do you pronounce? Do you know it's Sekiro or Sekiro? Like, how do you actually pronounce it?
I don't think it fucking matters. No.
Okay.
Sekiro,
no, obviously it doesn't matter. But
I'm just curious. I probably say it a different way every time.
Okay, I mean that's how you win. I feel like if you commit to just saying it differently, you can't lose.
I started making a list of like I always had like a list of games I would play. That's how I started the wheel. I had a list and I was like, I'll put it on the wheel.
That's why I started doing that. I've actually started playing games.
But I was like, I'm a super visual person. So for me on Steam, I have everything as tiles, and I have thumbnail pictures, and I go, "Oh, I like that photo. I'm going to click on that." Right? Like Netflix understands this. I don't know if you know this, but when you're on Netflix, Netflix will.
Well, I have Netflix anymore.
Netflix will periodically change thumbnails to try and see if you're more likely to click on them. Like it's actually it's like YouTube thumbnails. They will like change them to try and get you to click on them more.
I think that's fine personally. I think that's actually a good thing as long as each thumbnail represents the show, I think that's perfectly fine.
I've made this collection on Steam, and I've got like all of the games I'm interested in playing next, and I've put them on like this, and I can look at them immediately like as a visual thing and go, "Oh, I want to play that game next."
Yep.
And for the non-Steam
Can
ones,
I just say,
I've just added like, oh, this is actually a shortcut to fucking Windows Explorer or Internet Explorer or whatever.
Oh, okay.
But I've just renamed it to the game.
Right. I still want to say I want Valve to add I want to be able to see like text underneath the images. Like I'm still waiting for that.
You can add headers. Did I do it for this one?
Like once you loaded it in, I want it on this
when
screen.
You click it, like I added if you're watching the stream, I added this custom header here.
Yeah.
Like that thing, and you can add logos.
But it needs. But I need when I'm in the tile view, I need the letters because I need a standard. What I need personally, like I'm very visual as well, but when I'm looking for a name, I need it to be in a standard location, not random, depending on the thumbnail. So like I like
also
the best of both worlds.
If you're like, oh, that's a cool idea, but I'm indecisive and I don't want to make my own collection. Steam has a Play Next shelf you can add to your library that it will look at games that you love and will recommend you games based on that you haven't played that it thinks you might like. Like for me, I would love to play Celeste. I would love to play Hollow Knight. I would love to play Boneworks. These are great recommendations for me. I think these are all like a lot of games that I would be interested in playing.
Do you want to hear my selection? The problem with mine
is it anime?
It's super random.
18 plus stuff.
There's Stardew Valley as number 1. Then Among Us, Path of Exile, Subnautica.
Log in, dude, log in.
Yeah. Then it makes more sense. Factorio, XCOM 2. Okay, fine, that makes sense. I've been playing Mechanicus. And it's like, okay. And then like at some point, it gets to like Sims 4. And I'm like, what the hell is going on here? I get so confused with like recommended
Mine's
stuff
recommending
I think I have 2...
Mine's recommending me the Henry Stickmin collection, but I think that's because I have so much time in Among Us and Among Us VR. It's like,
why am I being recommended Among Us?
You've played 36 hours of Among Us. Maybe you should play the other game they made.
But why am I being recommended Among Us?
I don't know.
Like, what have I been playing?
I think the problem with you compared to me is I play a lot of games on Steam. So Steam goes, we have a lot of data about you. Whereas with you play the same one game over and over again, mostly on Steam. And then it's like...
It's even more complicated because I then also like and buy games with 0 hours in of like lots of different genres. It has like no data.
I'm just looking at the time on the we can't be stalling here. We've got so much more to cover. Random aside over. Guys, if you're feeling like you're like, I'm not sure what game to play, and you're just looking at this long list of names, turn your Steam library into the tile mode and just look at the images and go, that image looks interesting. Is it default?
Tile mode is the default view. Used to not be. When you go to home, it goes, for me, it's the default tile-based system. And if you click a category, even if it's in like list view, it still takes you to a tile view.
Is there a way to make it non-tile view? I don't
know. Well, it depends how you look at it. Because for example, when I'm looking through the list view, I just don't look at the tiles. So
I'll tell you.
Say you have a game click.
I forgot a game I've been playing recently that you could have picked, Cat Quest, but alas, it's too late.
your Steam Deck game.
I've been playing so much Cat. I think I literally played for 3 hours the other day because I was in the car waiting. So I was like, I'm just gonna sit in here and play Cat. And I played for like 3 hours. I've played a lot of Cat Quest recently. But it's such a like good game just to pick up and put down on the Steam Deck. Yeah, let's move on.
Yeah, I could see them.
Announcements we have Ghost Runner 2 announced launching October 26, 2023 on PS5, Xbox X, Epic, GOG, and Steam. I really like the first game. Excited to see the next one, especially when they had the cool-looking motorbike sections we saw in the trailer they put out. Alan Wake 2 has been delayed by 10 days, so it's coming out on October 27th rather than October 17th. And then let's move on to releases. So Wayfinder came out on August 17th, and this is the MMO action RPG sort of game. It's released by Airship Syndicate. So these are the guys who did the Darksiders Genesis, like the more ARPG kind of Darksiders game, and they did Ruined King, the Riot Forge, like League of Legends expanded universe style game. And I thought this one looked okay. I wasn't particularly super interested in it, but it's just see what people are thinking of the game. It's launched in early access. It has a lot of bundles for supporters. Let's have a look.
It has mixed reviews.
I try to review this game as least bias I can. There are too many people review buying this because they are mad they got kicked from the queue. Okay, so I did hear that there was a big queue to get into the game and people were getting kicked for bullshit reasons. I saw somebody was streaming and they had their controller plugged in, right? Or they had their controller connected to play, and their controller ran out of battery, and it was like controller disconnected, and it kicked them out the queue. And the Wayfinder devs put out an official statement saying, if you are queuing for our game, do not queue with a controller connected because you can get disconnected if your controller disconnects.
Why is that even in the game?
I thought that was like so fucked up, dude. That's so funny. Obviously, a bit of schadenfreude from me, who was not trying to log into the game, but it sucks that, something as stupid as that can get you kicked. So look. People are saying the combat's good. Upgrade mechanics, storyline is cool, design is cool, looking forward. People are saying they're getting DC'd. Played a few hours. What can I say is it's fun. Now the queues are fixed, I'll give this a try, and I made the mistakes of playing MDPS. I don't know what the fascination of the game does these days. Every single fight with non-stop AoE, but this plus the inability to start a new character without grinding the hell out of the game ends my interest. So word to the wise, unless you enjoyed running out of non-stop one-shot circles every other second player, are DPS. Oh, so melee DPS, range DPS. Class, because this is not melee friendly. I wish I could get my $20 back. So it seems like a lot of the reviews negative are coming from the queues. How do I check the graph? Let's have a look. Yeah, because like if you look, almost 3,000 were from after the launch day, which I'm guessing is the servers being broken. And as time has gone on, there's less and less negative reviews.
Yeah.
So I would.
It still looks kind of mixed, but yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's in early access, so
yeah. See how this goes.
Oh, so this game will be free to play when it comes out if you don't care about the founder pack. So it seems like it's out now if you buy the founders pack for the early access, and then when it releases, it will be free to play. Interesting.
So how do they make that money? What microtransactions?
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of successful like games that run purely on microtransactions. You look at Path of Exile, League of Legends, Dota 2. There's tons of games that run purely on cosmetic microtransactions. So I think it is a good way to go. But yeah, check that one out. Next up, we have the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Came out on the 18th of August from Sumo Digital, the developers of Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed. And it is the new DBD asymmetric horror game, I guess. I mean, Bubba, as he's lovingly called by the Debadelic community, is already a killer inside Debadelic. Yep, Bubba is the name of the killer from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. Bubba? That's his actual name. I'm not making this up.
What?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm from Texas, man.
Bubba Sawyer is the name of the guy. Yeah, his name's actually Bubba. That's not a meme. He's a redneck.
Why is he going to Sawyer as a surname? Okay. Sure.
But it seems it's very positive so far. This game seems cool. I did watch a brief gameplay of what's going on, and it seems a bit different. So in DBD, you're trying to repair generators. From what I saw, you were trying to like escape, and then you have to be quiet and like try and open gates to try and escape. But then there was this like noise mechanic where there was like a grandpa that you woke up if you were too loud. I think the idea is I think the idea of Texas Chainsaw Massacre was like, it's like, obviously this came out afterwards, but it's sort of like, Welcome to the Family, Son sort of thing from Resident Evil 7, where it's like, there's a family of killers and it's like you're trying not to wake them up. Because I think there's multiple killers. So one of you plays as Bubba, and then the other two that play as like a woman and a man, maybe, who are also part of the family. Somebody says here every victim in this game is literally caked up. From the gameplay I saw, I can confirm this. Okay. Bubba Head Pat's grandpa. There it is. Yeah, it's always cool to see like a new asymmetric style horror game coming out.
How many players is it? How many?
I think it's 3 killers versus 4 victims. Yeah, 3 killers versus 4 victims.
Okay.
But yeah, it looks pretty cool. I'm interested to try this out. Apparently, they have the rights to the license in terms of it's not going to be like a Friday the 13th situation where they release that awesome game and then like, oh, we're not allowed to update it anymore because we don't have the rights to, Jason and Friday the 13th, so we've got to stop doing updates to it now. But I want to try this. Is it on Games Pass? Because this seems like a perfect Games Pass game. Let me have a look.
Yeah.
I think it might be. How do you check? Yeah, it's on Games Pass, so that's always a good sign. Next up, we have Bomb Rush Cyberpunk came out on the 18th of August as well. I don't know if you know this, Tony, but this is like a spiritual successor to Jet Set Radio that came out. And I think there was another
looks like it.
game that came out with a similar vibe, but was very different in like gameplay-wise. But from what I've heard from like, I think it was John from Digital Foundry said, this is very much like, it plays just like Jet Set Radio. It is very much like a full spiritual successor in terms of like style, tone, and gameplay to that sort of game. I've never played Jet Set Radio. If you were looking at my Play Next library on Steam, you would see Jet Set Radio's on there. It's a game I'm interested in playing. I'm a bit hesitant to try it because I'm not a huge fan of like skating combo games, I would say. Right. But I just okay, so I fucking adore the soundtrack of Jet Set Radio. I think it is so good.
It's a good.
So I would be Lethal League Blaze is another game that the guy did the soundtrack. I'm trying to remember his name. It's a super Japanese game. Super Japanese game and super Japanese name. Jet Set Radio. It's so good. The soundtrack's so good. I get recommended it on Spotify with no ties to gaming on my Spotify. That's how good it is.
It's just a solid.
Yeah,
solid soundtrack.
I would recommend to anyone, even if you're not interested in Jet Set Radio, just listen to the Jet Set Radio OST. It's really good. Also, fun fact, I noticed this by accident. Hideki Naganuma. I think it's not humming the bass line. It's what's the other song? It's one of the songs has a sample from Club Tropicana. No, not Club Tropicana. Yeah, Club Tropicana from the Wham song.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Stop. He's like with the old woman. I had watched the Club Tropicana music video recently, and then I listened to that song, and I was like, oh, that's from Club Tropicana. I wonder how many people know where that sample's from. It's like, stop playing with that radio, George. I'm trying to get to sleep, in a very British accent because George Michael. But yeah. This game seems it's overwhelmingly positive on Steam. People are saying it's Jet Set Radio 3. But yeah, looks absolutely amazing. Yeah, one to check out.
It's good to see. It's a shame people have to wait so long for a spiritual successor.
Yeah,
it's good to
well, I mean, we had the Jet Set Radio missions in Sonic All-Star Racing Transformed. What more could you ask for? I think that might be the last time we ever saw Jet Set Radio in a Sega game.
Most probably, yeah.
Yeah. That looks really cool. Next up, we have Medieval: The Black Labyrinth came out 18th of August. I have not played it yet, but I've played a Medieval recently, and I fucking love that game. It's another awesome soundtrack, and there's a new soundtrack for The Black Labyrinth by Andrew Hasholt, who does all of the Boomer Shooter soundtracks. Really, really cool, like rock soundtracks he does. So definitely check. Did Andrew I think he may have taken over the Doom soundtrack after they had the weird stuff going on with Mick Gordon. I'm not 100% sure.
What weird stuff happened?
So I think we talked about it on the podcast before, but Bethesda were like, we delayed the soundtrack to Doom Eternal. So Mick Gordon did the entire soundtrack to Doom 2016. He'd worked another, he did like a really cool song from Prey. He does at the beginning when you're in like the helicopter sequence. It's called Everything's Gonna Be Alright or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a really good song. Like he obviously had like a good relationship with Bethesda. And then they were like, basically we've had to rush the release. Like Mick was really lazy, and he didn't give us the sound. That he didn't give us all the songs, and that's why we've been super delayed in releasing the music. Everyone sort of like dragged Mick's name to the mud, and then he came out a couple of years later, and he's like, "I'm seeking a lawsuit against him. None of this is true. I've been keeping my mouth shut, and I'm." So I don't know what who's telling the truth.
We don't know what happened there then. Yeah,
but that's what I'm saying. Like, Mick,
is the lawsuit still going on, or do we don't know?
I have no idea, to be honest with you.
It goes through
it's so hard.
Discovery process.
It's so hard to track like lawsuits unless they're very big news sort of thing.
Need a lawyer.
Yeah. Anyway, Medieval: The Black Labyrinth, very positive. People seem to like it. I've heard it's got some interesting level design. We showed the trailer before. It's got new weapons, some new enemies, some new levels.
Yeah.
Looks really cool. Yeah. Also, I had 100% achievement completion on Medieval. You have now ruined this by releasing DLC. I now no longer have 100% completion. You've added achievements for the DLC?
Well, that means you have to get the DLC.
Gonna have to get the DLC. I might pick it up. I'm unsure whether I'm gonna buy it immediately, because I've been trying to buy less games recently because I'm just got so many games. I'm like, do I need to buy another Boomer Shooter? Do I need to invest the money there? Or can I just play one of the ones I already have and haven't played? I haven't played Dusk. I haven't played Ultra Kill. There's tons of New Blood stuff I haven't played yet. So
I think the Ultra Kill one is crazy to me.
I bought Medieval VR as well. So yeah. Tony, Guild Wars 2 Secrets of the Obscure came out 22nd of August, come out on Steam. It's got mixed reviews on Steam from the 18 people who've reviewed it.
I've not played it. I'll be brief. So Ender Dragons was the previous expansion, was like February of last year. It's like a year and a half ago. Like it's really quick when this one came out. So in that final of that is like there's like one dragon left, and even then, I don't think like not really a proper dragon anymore. They are, but I don't want to. It's fine. So like basically, what's happened though? Like, you've been killing dragons. It's like this entire Guild Wars 2 story, right? And that's really destroyed magic. The point of this expansion is that there's wizards that were hovering in the sky in the tower that you kind of see the interiors of here and stuff. They don't obviously they're wizards. They don't like that you're screwing around with magic.
Yeah.
So they're just very angry. Other story notes. Again, I haven't played it. Zoja, voiced by Felicia Day, the little Azura, is back.
Famously from the Guild, which is a good connection to be in a game called Guild Wars.
Yeah, and like she was pretty big in like
an episode of
the launch.
An episode of she was in a couple of episodes of Supernatural.
Oh yeah, man. Yeah, I mean, I love Felicia Day. It's good to see Zoja as a character back. They kind of just like only Redlock, Brimstone, and Logan Thackeray were in there from the original like story guild in Guild Wars 2. So like, it's kind of good to see Zoja back. But yeah, the other problem is during this that they also updated some stuff. Like before the expansion came out, they had also been updating, like slowly changing builds, and like there's going to be a whole with the release of this, there's going to be a rune update, right? Obviously, the other thing I should mention with part of the expansion, there's obviously the flight masteries with like extra stuff, like it's like flying and like stuff around the world, like updrafts that your flying mounts can use and stuff. So as far as I'm aware, that works. I don't know how well that works, but I've seen people like on YouTube videos doing it. It looks kind of cool. The new maps look kind of good. So. But yeah, the problem is like with the update, they changed the runes, which are armor socketed upgrades, right? So before, you have 6 armor pieces in Guild Wars. Before, if you had 6 of the same of the max tier rune, you'd have a unique buff at the end, which was kind of interesting. I'm going to choose a really crazy one, but like this is like kind of the stuff you could get. There's a pirate. Sorry, I think it's called Swashbuckler, the rune set.
Which class?
If you create, you can put this in any
class.
The runes are agnostic.
Oh, okay.
If you critically hit someone, it summons a parrot, and then it like comes around and attacks people. So obviously, me and my friend put it on a thief class, and then we're dressed up as pirates. Thief. We chose a really poor setup. I think we chose sword and gun, which is a terrible combination.
Oh, you got to be a swashbuckler.
Exactly. You got the pirate leg, you got the pirate hook, you get the pirate hat.
It's like when they made pirate rogue in World of Warcraft Legion, and you had like the pirate scimitar, and it was like there's an ability that just shoots cannonballs, and I was like, this is objectively the worst option to choose on the talent tree, but I'm like, it shoots fucking cannonballs. I'm gonna use it.
Yeah. It was this thief swashbuckler thing was somewhat viable. It was a little bit memey, but it was fine. But okay, the problem is in the update they've removed the uniqueness of the final level of the rune set, right? And they were going to replace it with a different system. With like I think they add a trinket system on top of it. Which I don't understand why you would need a rune system and a trinket system. I was very confused with this. But anyway, the idea is that the unique stuff will be moved to the trinket system. There are many unique summons with the rune sets. So I just gave you one example. There are many others. None of the trinkets have summons.
Okay.
And it's like, what are you doing? And there's also that's not just the only thing they've removed. There's like other stuff. Like they've added some stuff. They've basically stuff, broke so many stuff.
They've gone back and they've deprecated stuff that was good accidentally.
They've changed stuff to be boring and stat boosts instead of interesting modifiers and summons and things.
So
I hate that.
One review I read, it was saying like, if you're considering this expansion, better wait 6 months before buying it. A year of the development, and they added 10 missions that'll be over in 5 hours and 2 maps you can complete in a day. You pay full price for an expansion. They lock 80% of the expansion to an update 6 months after the release. So, Guild Wars 2 has changed its business model recently.
It's not full price though. I want to correct that. It's not full price. It's less money.
Right.
It's not half price, but it's not full price.
Guild Wars 2 has changed its business model recently, where they want to pump out more smaller expansions. And I was talking about this video. I was saying like, World of Warcraft tried to do this. So they're like, we're going to pump out an expansion like they were doing like a every 2-year expansion sort of model, and then they were like, and then they got to WoD, and they were like, Warlords of Draenor, and then they were like, and then we're going to do Legion, and we're going to try and pump it out. And what happened was, WoD had no content, and Legion was full of content. So it could be the case where, these expansions might be coming out quicker, but they're super front-loaded and then very quickly fall off, or
so I wanted to give
you don't get those later updates on the expansions you would normally get, and they just release a new expansion instead.
So before, the expansions cost, I want to say, $35 for the base version. These ones cost, I think, $26, and the previous expansion had 4 maps and I think a longer story. I think there was
I played through the entire story for
Path of Fire is very similar to Enter Dragon's Length, yes.
Okay.
So this one only has 2 maps and 10 story missions. So the problem. Okay, I want to explain this. I think this will be missed if you don't play the game. So what normally happened? The expansion would be released. So they're like 4 or 5 maps and the story, right? And then these maps, because they have lots of content that you can do. Like these maps are alive. Like the stuff to do. Like you need to do the stuff in the maps, and you need a player base to keep them alive. They would then, like a few months after the expansion drops, release new maps with new stories, a part of the Living World season stuff, which is like in between the expansions. And these maps, apparently it's better now, but these maps would almost always die.
Somebody said in the review, very bad expansion. They removed the free rewards from logging in daily. If they got rid of login rewards,
I was gonna get to that. So they've changed the login, or they've changed the daily system.
Okay.
You no longer get. Okay. I'm gonna actually disagree with this reviewer as well. I think that's a good thing. You should not get anything for logging in
not
for
removed.
1 minute.
We've got Scorn retorts in the chat. The Guild Wars to enjoy himself.
Rework not removed.
Yeah. So apparently they've changed it to the Wizard's Vault now that you get instead of a login reward, or how does the Wizard's Vault work?
Yeah, Michael was. Scorn retorts was saying me this like. Oh, he's Gnef in chat. I was calling Gnef underscore. Why are you going underscore? It's someone else take Gnef.
Yeah, Gnef's too popular. How does the Wizard Vault work?
So it's just like I will quickly explain what I understand, then I can be corrected. So they've changed the data. So my understanding is there's like very little, if any, of like the login itself. That instead you have to actually do 4 dailies to get the dailies. There's no login. There's no true login bonus. You get a currency that you can then spend to get stuff that would have been and other stuff as well. Materials that would have been a part of the daily reward. And they also added then the weekly stuff. So
I think to point out, most people playing Guild Wars 2, I assume, are not playing on Steam because there's only 18 reviews on the Steam version of the DLC.
I don't play on Steam, so
I personally own Guild Wars 2, but so I don't have it on Steam because you can't transfer your character over to the Steam version. No. So if I was going to get it, I would probably get it off Steam, sort of thing. Which is another interesting thing to point out, that there might be more people enjoying the expansion or more people not enjoying the expansion off Steam.
Gnaf is saying dailies include a login daily, so it's like so you have like a separate thing. So but okay, I guess what that Steam review was saying though is before you could log into the game, you would have a pop-up saying, "Oh, you've done." It goes like 1 to 30, and then you would claim the X day after the previous one of that item, right? That was it. You could then claim it. You then leave, and you had that. Like you could it's like 30 seconds. So you'd log in, get the reward, and leave. That's gone. I guess there's now a login daily system. One thing I was going to ask actually, Gnaf,
have they moved over to DirectX?
Don't you say the It's DirectX 11 now.
DirectX 11 now. Okay.
Yeah. Isn't the shop for the daily reward only in the new expansion maps though? Or have they fixed that yet? Because that, I think, is one thing that...
Dude, if they remove login reward stuff and then they were like, yo, you have to buy the expansion to access this new system, that would be kind of...
Yeah.
I
think they might have accidentally done that.
Just imagine Colin Johnson smiling.
Yeah, I thought that was pretty dumb, because surely you'd want to put it in every major city, certain rewards unlocked by the expansion, not all. Okay, fair enough. So I was gonna say that I assume they've locked stuff on that isn't like, it's not like new items limited to the new expansion. It's like old stuff that is now only in the expansion. That still seems pretty dumb though.
Some of the best value ones. Okay, certain rewards are locked by expansion, not all. Some of the best value ones are though.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think it's kind of a mixed bag. It sounds
like
they've kind of screwed with the updates,
let's end this.
I'll leave it at that.
No. Let's end this by Michael. Thoughts on the expansion, good or bad, and thoughts on them releasing more smaller expansions, and then we'll end it there.
Because
you're a Guild Wars 2 enjoyer.
Telling me earlier
you've been playing this.
Yeah, he told me earlier that he was enjoying the story like more than End of Dragons, and I said that's kind of a low bar though. Is it actually good? And I think he told me it was good. But we'll get a response in the chat.
Yeah, I didn't know Michael was watching. You'd love to see it.
2 whole views. Love to see it. Story good, Death of the Living World also good for the game. Yeah, so some of the Living World stuff before was like in between the expansions. So yeah, it's good that that's gone, in my opinion as well. But I'm a bit concerned. There's only 2 maps, right, and like slightly less story missions. But again, I think that's fine as long as the maps are good and like they stay alive for longer.
Yeah, how many smiling Collins out of 10 is it receiving? That's what I want to know.
It's good to see him back. He's a good lad.
Didn't he work on New World, or he worked at Amazon?
I think he was community manager for.
Okay, so apparently Amazon? It released with 2 maps, but there's gonna be 2 more maps sometime later. 7 out of 10, Colin smiling for sure. You'll love to hear it.
Yeah.
Right, let's move on. Immortals of Avium came out as well on. Let me pull up my notes. The 22nd as well. Same day as Guild Wars 2 expansion. You got hot competition. And this game is very mixed. So this game is incredibly heavy. I don't know if you've seen the console versions of this game, but it's essentially running with the full Unreal Engine 5 package. So it's running with Nanite and Lumen.
Insane. Yeah, that's insane.
The whole 5.1 package of Unreal Engine.
Well,
and
Nanite should like get some performance back, but if you're running a Lumen, that's a lot. That's
heavy. I was interested in this because I was like, oh, it's a Wizard FPS game. We don't have many of these. I mean, we just talked about Medieval: The Black Labyrinth, which is a Wizard FPS game. Yeah, I thought it looked really cool. But I immediately was like, it's an EA game, and it sort of seems like it has no soul to it. It just seems very like corporate, you know. I watched the Digital Foundry port analysis of the console versions. They haven't done PC yet, but in order to get it, so they were like, we're going to get this game to run with the full Unreal Engine suite at 60 FPS on consoles. Running on the PS5 and the Series X, it's running with FSR 2 scaling up to 4K from 720p. Holy shit, is it a low base resolution? And you can tell there is some image quality issues there, upscaling that much. The Series S version is upscaling from like 500p. Like it's insane. Yeah, I think it's upscaling to 1080p though. I believe potentially. I don't know if Series X is going all the way to 4K. It might be, but yeah. I know people were kind of upset when they were saying like, if you want to play this game at 1080p 60, you're going to have to play it. You're gonna need like a 2080 Super with a that's on top of having it an upscaler like DLSS or FSR or XeSS.
I think it's fine to have that as like your highest setting, but like to not be able to go any lower, it seems a bit dubious. But obviously, if their game vision was to have all these things on and active at all times, and then yeah, kind of disappointing though. I can appreciate the disappointment as well.
Yeah, it seems like a lot of people are upset about the technical issues with getting it to run.
Yeah,
a lot of people are saying, they're not finding it that fun. But yeah, I don't know. Some people seem to be enjoying it.
But yeah. I've seen more technical problems, like people with technical problems than like the game problems, but like I don't think it's gonna be for everyone.
Seems like some people are really enjoying it.
Yeah,
I've heard some people say the combat is like just super chaotic and doesn't feel that fun, sort of thing. Because there was another, what was it, Ghostwire Tokyo. I was excited for that, and then that came out. And people were like, "Oh, the combat's not that great."
It was very simplistic, and
it was quite slow as well. Yeah, I think this is a lot faster.
I think it was interesting ideas, but like, it wasn't like very in depth.
I'll have to check this one out later. I think once
we need to wait.
There's less technical stuff, and people are more talking about just the gameplay itself.
I think as well, like I think the gameplay is probably the magic system's probably so different from other stuff that you need to like, I don't know, let it sit, let it simmer. Is that what's the meme? Lem cook?
Lem cook, yeah. WrestleQuest came out. It is a wrestling RPG, tag team with Destiny. If you've ever wanted a Macho Man Randy Savage and tons of other icon offer guidance as you powerbomb your way to glory beyond the ring. If you've ever wanted to play a JRPG with wrestling characters, like a wrestling themed JRPG, this is the game for whoever the hell has been asking for that. It looks great, to be honest with you. Like,
why did you see this? Is my question.
I just was like, oh, this is a big game coming out, and it's like, it's something that almost no one else is making. It's interesting in that fact. It's like usually when I look at releases, it's a chance to go, well, I don't know much about this game. Let's check out what other people are saying about it. And it seems like people are quite positive about this one. It's like Paper Mario.
It's not too expensive either.
People are saying there's some bugs. Okay. Turn-based combat. It's almost impossible things to screw up, and yet they did with near constant. There's a lot of quick time events in the turn-based combat. Someone's saying, yeah.
I'm okay with that personally.
They added a pinning minigame, something that the WWE 2K games tried and everyone hated. It boggles the mind. Outside of combat, your character is pretty sluggish too. Whenever so, usual run button allows you to move at what feels like 1.0001 times fast. The music's very good. The art is fun. Okay, so I think overall it's mostly positive, but there's some people that were a little bit let down by the expectations.
Yeah,
it seems like
some people are very anti-QT, and I'm not anti-QT.
My general consensus is I'm not in the JRPG community, but it seems like people are very much either there should be no QuickTime events in between the turns, or there should be. Like Paper Mario, I think, is an example of a QuickTime event JRPG. So it depends if you like that sort of thing.
Yeah. I think it depends what the QTs are. Like, to me, like if it's like to me, I just see it as like a mini game. And like if it's like Super Burn Mashy, I hate it. If it's like some other thing you have to do that's more interesting, then I'm willing to give it a try.
Next up, we have Armored Core 6: Fires of Rubicon, the massive From Software game that's come out.
I really want to play this game, so I keep getting recommended videos of it. I've watched a lot of videos already, but like I've been limiting myself to like certain missions.
I'm not particularly interested in playing this one, so I just went on Twitch and I was like, oh, I'll watch some people play it because it came out and I was like, oh, everyone's going to be streaming this, right? It's the next big From Software game. Not a lot of people were actually streaming.
It's not a Souls-like game. It has like FromSoft DNA, but
so I watched. I was watching Asmongold play it for a bit. He's a big From Software guy, and from what I was watching, immediately I started watching, I was like, what the fuck is going on the screen? Like, I think this is, from what I've heard from other people saying and from what I've watched personally, it seems like one of those games that is really, it could be really fun to play when you're playing it, but it's super hard to watch. Like, it's so hard to tell what's happening when you're the viewer. In terms of there's tons of stuff on the screen that's like blinking and making noises, and I'm just like, oh, what the fuck, what's going on?
I maybe that's like further like later mission things. So again, like I'm deliberately not looking into later. I'm really like deliberately like minimizing like what missions I've seen. But like the stuff I've seen, there's like I again like I am a fan, like, and I have looked into like people explaining mechanics and things. So, like, I think I have a different perspective, but like, I personally can't.
But it's interesting. I like it from the technical aspect that it's a From Software game, their first ever From Software game that runs at 120 FPS. On PC at least. It's not open world like Elden Ring. It is a mission-based structure, and the way that you customize your character is not through classes, but you literally build your own mech with different weapons, which is really interesting.
The other thing to note as well, it's not like an RPG or like not like another From Software game where it's like you're kind of locked in. You're meant to completely change your mech for each mission. That's the whole point.
I've never really been a big mech guy. I've never really been a big fan of mech stuff, and the only mech game I've ever played is Titanfall 1 and Titanfall 2, and Titanfall 2 is mostly an FPS game.
I would say the mechs in that are more just big humans anyway.
I think it was Hawken once, and I hated that. That was that's very much about controlling like super slow big mechs.
Most people did not like that game anyway. I think I like the idea of big slow stuff. But
was it Hawken I played, or I think it was?
I think it would be Hawken.
I think I might have played Mech Warrior. I may have played one of the.
Mech Warrior is also slow.
Online, like multiplayer Mech Warrior games, because a friend was into it and he was like, "Do you want? It's free to play with me." I was like, "Okay." I was like, "Oh, I hate this."
That was Mech Warrior then that you played,
right?
But yeah, I played the demo for that. I think the previous Armored Core game. But yeah, I would say now Mech games are very niche. Armored Core games very niche.
Well, we just talked about that. Like
reviews on Steam.
So apparently this is the second biggest From Software release of a game ever, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So it's absolutely massive.
So the fact that a mech game is getting that much attention is crazy to me.
I think honestly, it's Dark Souls. It's Elden Ring. Elden Ring was so big that people are going, I've never been interested in mech games, but I'm checking out Armored Core because I trust Miyazaki. I trust fucking From Software, you know?
Do you know who Iron Pineapple is?
No.
Okay. I know Ganef in the chat will know who that is, but he was like, invited to play the closed door of this, and like he didn't care about, like, he was like, I'm making this video. I really like all the Soulsborne games. Like I like the Dark Souls and the Elden Ring games, but I'm not a mech fan. And he's like, he's saying like he was still enjoying it as long as you understand it's not a Souls-like game.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay.
What do you mean, dude? I can't get a big sword and jump on people?
I really want to play this game, but I'm gonna wait.
I'm interested to try it. Yeah.
I think I want to play and like give my own thoughts, because like I tend to have slightly different. I want slightly different things from other people that I tend to find, but we'll see. I really like the combat chatter. Like I really like that sort of style of stuff.
Do your own research, brother. Come up with your own ideas.
But I love mechs, so like I'm gonna have to.
Well, I was just gonna mention
my thoughts will be very.
We talked about that Gundam Overwatch 2 game that just shut down recently. It's like clearly people want to play mech games, but they're just not finding. People was. Did you hear about
to differentiate.
The old Transformers games? They were like, you should add them to Games Pass. And they were like, we don't have the source code. Was it Activision or someone was we lost the source code to the old Transformers games.
Okay, so Hasbro said we can't do that because we no longer have the source code. And then Activision were like, no, we have the source code. And I think the multiplayer is coming back online.
Okay.
So I think it's coming back. So we'll see what's happening
Confirmed. With that. Speaking of Souls games, Blasphemous 2 came out on the 24th of August. So we've got another side-scroller Souls-like Metroidvania game. Very, very
played
popular.
a little bit of the first game.
Did you like it?
I think it's interesting. I don't know. I think if the side-scrolling Souls it's like completely different to like a 3D game. Like you have to kind of think.
We're going to be talking about another platforming Metroidvania, like Souls-like sort of game that I played and is getting a sequel. So we'll talk about that on Gamescom if we ever get there.
I love the biblical Gothic sort of theme. By the way, like that is like the art style is on point.
That's like Bloodborne sort of thing.
Game. Yeah. But more
Lies of P.
More Castlevania sort of style, I would say.
I always want to say Lives of P, like Lives of Pi, the the tiger booking film. It's not. Anyway, this looks fucking awesome.
No, the bosses are brutal in this game. That's all I'm gonna say. Well, in the last game, I should say. But in the last game, the bosses are brutal. I'd expect nothing less in this game.
I have the first game because it was given away free on Amazon.
Yes.
I think. Let me check my notes. Yeah, it was given away through Twitch Prime. So I own the first game. I can play that on Amazon. So maybe I'll try that out at some point. Yeah. Very positive.
I think I played it on Steam because I played the demo of it.
Last one is a weird game. It's a Metroidvania, of course. It's not got a great emphasis on that, where inspiration is just health and its clunkiness, some jagged sharp edge, but a fantastic first effort. Blasphemous 2 is like the dev said, okay, we literally learned every lesson, let's make an amazing sequel, and they have. So it seems like people are saying
there's a little bit of jank for the first one.
They've improved on the sequel.
Maybe not jank, but clunky, I should say. A little bit of clunk to the first game. I agree with that.
Okay, so apparently they've learned more from the exploration of this one, so the Metroidvania part is more interesting. That's way more interesting to me because I fucking love Metroidvania games. So I gotta check this one out, I guess. Looks cool. Next up we have Saints Row. Not a new game, but it's the new Saints Row game.
Released on Steam.
That came to Epic, but is now releasing from its Epic's exclusivity and is now coming to Steam. People did not like this when it released on Epic, and it seems like they're still not liking this on Steam.
I would argue that's not negative enough. What I've seen of it, I do not.
Right, it's mixed. I don't know. Let's read some of the positives because let's see what people are saying.
Yeah.
Don't believe the haters. It's a good game. You can always refund if you don't like it. Get the gold edition. Everything is working well. I've installed it on an SSD and now it's running smooth.
That's not the problem with the game.
The review bombing is a set of angry woke people claiming the game is too woke. And they've reframed their criticism as critics of other aspects of the... Wait, what?
Oh my god. Okay, can I explain why it's bad?
Wait, this guy is saying they're criticizing the game. They're using criticisms of the game as an excuse to criticize wokeness. What?
The problem of the game is not that the characters are diverse. The problem with the game is the main characters are shit. They are boring. They're dumb. It makes no sense. It's a reboot of the second game.
Hang on,
it's so bad.
I'm just gonna go by Busted Clutch's logic. The criticisms of the games in his logic exist, but they shouldn't be used to justify attacking the wokeness of the game. That's his logic from what I'm reading into this.
The problem of the game is not the wokeness. That's not my problem. The mission design is poor.
But you can't.
The characters are shit. The factions are shit.
You can't use valid criticism because you're using it to attack the wokeness.
The idea of the city is so boring. There's a problem with bugs with like the cars coming out of nowhere and not working. There are missions that do not work. It's a terrible game.
They may have fixed it for the Steam release. You don't know. There's my good friend Ravenborn said, "Don't believe the haters." I believe them.
But have you played any of the Saints Row games?
I've played some of Saints Row 3.
Yeah. See, like okay. I'm not saying that the game world for Saints Row 3 is like a masterpiece or anything, but it's somewhat interesting, right? There's like overpasses, there's like suburbs, there's like little streets and things. It's like somewhat interesting. Like the street view in the new Saints Row game is terrible and boring. It's just there's nothing interesting about Saints Row 1 or sorry, the Saints Row reboot, soft reboot. It's just. And then you have to go through the really embarrassing, cringeworthy dialogue. It's like I would not recommend it.
People in the reviews are saying they're getting crashes to desktops trying to play this game.
Yeah, that's been a common thing. There'll also be animation bugs and like T-posing problems and I believe again, a lot of these things could be fixed. Back when it was launched, the collisions were like the physics were like sped up. It looked really weird.
One of the reviews is saying get it on sale, buggy game but goofy and fun. So it seems like some of the people are saying like
no, it's not goofy.
It's broken, but it could still be fun.
If you want a game, just play Saints Row 3 that's been remastered.
The masterpiece, right?
Guys, just play Saints Row 3. This game is shit. I will say to the guys about the wokeness, I actually remember now. The lead game dev of the Saints Row, the same one as of the other Saints Row, but he was like claiming the only reason why he's getting negative reviews was because of anti-wokeness. And I'm like, no, that's if you actually read the reviews, that's not the problem.
And then finally we have Sunken Land, which just came out. It looks like a mixture of Rust and Raft. And
Raft.
I was talking to one of my friends, and he was like, "All games are shit now." And I was like, "Okay." and I was and I was like, "Well, what's a good game then?" He's like, "Have you seen this Sunken Land game?" And I was like, "It looks like Rust mixed with Raft." And he was like, "Yeah, it could be really good though." So I was like, "I'll check it out when it's coming out in a couple of weeks. I'll check it out." And before this released, it didn't have a price on it, and I was like, immediately, if a game, so. My dad's given me an age-old piece of advice. He said, you ever walk into a store and there's no prices, like price labels on the items, walk out of that store. It's too expensive for you. Like,
well, even if it's not, you can't make a determination on cost.
But it's like, if they don't put the prices on stuff, it's probably super expensive. So I was like, immediately I was like, oh, there's no price. How much is it actually going to cost? It seems like it's £13 on sale at the moment. It's £16 off sale, so an early access game doesn't seem too bad. It's got mixed reviews at the moment. Some people seem to really like it.
I want to know is what makes it different, because like if it's like Rust or Raft, like what?
Well, I think currently it is like a single player / co-op game,
right?
Where I think a lot of the people like wanted it to be more like a Rust PvP sort of game.
Okay. So as a co-op person, I don't care about the PvP.
But yeah, I don't know. It seems like, well, Raft is very much just like you're constantly traveling around. There's no permanence, but this seems like it has that like Rust base building element to it. So
yeah,
I don't know. I'll probably check it out again, either if my friend plays it or if it comes out of early access, and I'll see what it's like.
What I'm going to say is a reason why the only survival game I really play a lot of is Minecraft. That's what I'm going to say.
Let's move on to quick news. So the first quick news we have is Charles Martinet will no longer be voicing Mario. Nintendo put out a statement saying that Charles Martinet will no longer be the voice of Mario. In whatever the fuck a Mario ambassador is what he is becoming. I do not understand. He is ambassador for Mario. He's graduating Nintendo and he's becoming a Mario ambassador. I don't know if you've ever seen that. Like, there's like a streaming organization called OTV, and one of the members was leaving, and instead of saying "yo," they left the org. They were like, "Pokemon is graduating OTV," and I was like. That just means like, what the fuck does that mean? Graduating? What does that mean?
I didn't realize it was a university.
Well, they did a whole thing where they put on like those hats. What are the flat hats? You can tell I haven't
graduation
got
hat.
A degree, yeah. And then you had like diplomas and stuff, and I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
But anyway, And also, fans were unsure whether his last performance would be the upcoming Super Mario Bros. Wonder, but Nintendo has confirmed, I think to IGN maybe, that Charles Martinet is not involved in the new Super Mario Bros. Wonder game that's coming out later this year. I believe. Let me double check.
Maybe I'm wrong with this, but I would assume when you do voice acting, that's like near the end of the game. Like once you know what you want to get, then you get the voice actors in.
Coming out October, so a couple of months. The new Mario game is coming out. So
this year is kind of stacked with games, by the way.
So immediately when people saw this statement, they were just like, "Oh fuck, Charles Martinet died," because it looks like one of those sort of posts where they're like, "We're so sorry to break the news," but then they were like,
"Black though."
But he's very much alive. But people don't know if he just wanted to retire or he just had like a big asking price for his talents and they wanted to go with someone cheaper. They're keeping him on as a Mario ambassador, so maybe they still have a good relationship. I don't know what the fuck that means, though.
Was this the same guy that did Parthenites in Skyrim?
I don't know what that is, so maybe.
It's a dragon. It's a dragon.
We were watching an episode of The Expanse the day before yesterday.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a character introduced, and I immediately went, "That's Adam Jensen from Deus Ex." Yeah. Like, I just heard his voice, and I immediately was like, "That's him." And I looked it up, and I was like, "Yep, that's him." Like, it's crazy when you hear like a voice actor so much, and you just go, "Yep, I know who that is."
Yeah, that's cool.
It's like I'm constantly hearing Gordon Freeman's voice actor everywhere. It's crazy.
Yeah.
Next up on Quick News, we have so Running with Scissors as part of the statement saying, "We're being told by some of our fans our games are too expensive in some countries, but we've been using Steam's recommended pricing for a while. We trust Valve enough not to change this. If this game is too expensive for you, you can pirate them until you have enough to support this." So Running with Scissors is the developer of the Postal games, and they're saying, "Look, we're using Steam's recommended pricing for these other currencies, like the Brazil and what's the other one that has like Venezuela has like a super bad economy when it comes to
I have a funny for some of these I think some of these countries that have bad economies, they tend to just like use other digital stores anyway.
And then people will go, yes, they'll put on a mustache and a hat and go, "I am a Venezuelan citizen. I would like to purchase 100 copies of this game and sell them on the marketplace."
It is difficult because like if you are from that region, it's like it might be too expensive. Like it's kind of a balancing act not to screw over everyone. It's just like it is a balancing act, unfortunately.
But Steam has been trying to do stuff where they're trying to stop you from buying games in other regions and then selling them to other people. But they were like, "Yo, if our games are too expensive and you're like in a country where you can't afford to buy it, just pirate it." And then somebody was 100%. Like, "Will your games, ever be Epic exclusives?" And they were just like, "Fans on Steam are the reason why our company is still alive. Our games will never be Epic exclusives." So, based.
I mean, I think exclusivities are bad to begin with. I mean, don't get me wrong. Like, if you're in a tight spot and you've been given money, like I can't really knock it.
Factorio,
as a customer, I don't like it.
Factorio expansion, officially called Factorio Space Age, is coming out, targeting a 2024 release. So this will come out sometime next year. I don't know if you've ever heard of the space exploration mod for Factorio, Tony, but it is like one of the biggest, like most popular Factorio mods. Basically, the end of Factorio. I've seen people streaming the space exploration mod. The end of Factorio ends with you launching a rocket into space as part of the end of your factory. So this will pick up from that point, and you will have to build platforms on several different planets. I think there's like Mars and stuff like that, and you will progress through the space age by building space platforms and going through that stuff. And people are like, this is very similar to the space exploration mod. And it turns out that the dev who worked on the space exploration mod is working on this expansion for Factorio. So people seem to really like the space exploration mod. So if it's coming as an official expansion, then I think it's probably in good hands, it seems like.
Yeah, that's very cool. Good to see.
Next up, we have Emulation Retro news. We got our first hands-on with Metal Gear Solid Collection Volume 1, and it seems like there is a 1080p 60 FPS target on all platforms except for Nintendo Switch. This means the collection runs 1080p 60 FPS on console and PC. So I don't know if potential for modding to change this cap or what's going on there. They said target. I don't know if it's just going to be capped 1080p 60 on PC or if it's going to be an option to unlock it. I don't know. It's Konami, so who the hell knows? But from what we've heard so far, Switch is 720p 60, 720p 30, sorry, in handheld and 1080p 30 in docked. But Konami did put out a statement as well about this collection saying, look, you may be shocked by how dated some of the elements of the early games are. So how much work they're actually putting into like remastering these games rather than just porting them to different platforms, we'll have to wait and see.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that even porting it can be difficult, especially for like earlier stuff. So, like, I think it even just being to run is a good start.
Yeah.
I guess it's more of a. I don't know. Yeah, maybe it's more of a port than a proper remaster. I think that's okay. To be upfront with that, maybe.
Old school RuneScape is getting its first skill in 10 years, Tony. I don't know if you understand how huge this is.
Where's Halo Andy?
I've spoken to RuneScape Andy about this. And
RuneScape Andy.
So, if you don't know, old school RuneScape, in order to get so it is based on the 2007 version of the game, but in order to get new content added to the game, it must be voted in a poll. So any content that they want to add to the original version of the game, they have to go through the community, because so much of the community was like, we don't like RuneScape 2, we don't like RuneScape 3, we're going to leave, we want old school RuneScape. So they've made it so to vote, you need to be a member with a total level of 300 or above and a minimum total playtime of 25 hours. And it requires a super majority vote of 70% in order for the vote to pass. And they've been voting on sailing for a long time, and I think most of the time people have been saying no to sailing. There's been sailing and shamanism has been the big ones. I think they didn't vote in shamanism, but sailing has been voted in. So this is the first big skill in a long time.
I was talking to Squad of the Tours, and I feel like it was a little bit stacked. Like, apparently in this last vote, they put like a lot of emphasis on like what sailing would do, and then nothing on what the other options would be. And it's like, okay.
I heard there was a separate vote for shamanism, but it didn't get through. So
no, but that's because they're more vague with it. Okay. So in my opinion, it looked like maybe this is a bit conspiracy theory, but it seems a bit stacked, and it looked like the devs have been because again, as you point out, they've been trying to push it for ages, so they keep bringing sailing as something they want to try and push. So.
Well, I asked RuneScape Andy. I was like, "Are you super excited to do sailing and get a new skill to 99?" And he was like, "I just want to vote in the next quality of life update." He just wants more quality of life updates for the base game. He's like not that interested in new skills. Yeah.
No, I asked one of the talks. I mean, if he said in the chat, he was saying that I don't think he wanted to do sailing either.
Then on Red Dead Redemption, we got the Switch port and the PS4 ports. They're all running at 30 FPS. The PS4 and the Series X PS5 versions are running at 4K 60, and then the Switch version is running at 720p 30 handheld and 1080p 30 handheld. But there's been people who have been running it on overclock switches and have been uncapping the frame rate with a modded switch, and they've been able to reach 60 FPS gameplay on Red Dead Redemption 2. Scrum Resort says it looks like Hunter 2.0 at the moment. I have no idea what that means as someone who doesn't.
I assume that's bad. I'm going to say that's bad. Or at the very least, very similar. Then what was the point of
Hunter training. Let's have a look at this. Is a gathering skill.
Needs integration. Oh, the other skill was a mechanics. Okay, fair enough.
catch. Equipment such as box traps and birds nets catch creatures and obtain products such as animals, furs, feathers, and bones, and level up the hunter skill. They gain the ability to catch creatures with which award greater amounts of experience when they are caught. Then you can lay more traps as you get higher level. How often? Fun to train, pointless in practice.
Yeah,
needs integration.
Yeah. So I think the idea is like it might be a skill to train, but like it needs to like interact with other parts of the game to make it seem fun instead of it being its own separate thing.
What was it? There was like one of the rune crafting things can be super useful, but nobody trains it because it's so boring or annoying to grind.
I guess that's the opposite problem, where it's like it's integrated, but then it's really annoying. Again, anyway. We'll have to ask the RuneScape people. I played the tutorial of RuneScape and then left.
Red Dead Redemption. You can overclock the Switch to run with that 60 FPS overhead, which led people to go, well, the PS4 version is running like not that far away from the Switch version. Why couldn't they have that version running at 60 FPS? Like, it seems like there's a lot of overhead from this 30 FPS cap for the PlayStation versions that they could easily reach a higher frame rate. I don't know if you also saw this, was the PlayStation versions were using FSR 2.1, but not for upscaling. They were literally using it at native 4K res and then just using it for anti-aliasing, which we'll talk about later because AMD's just announced this as a feature.
I've seen a lot of people comparing where they prefer the FSR's anti-aliasing than
from the Digital Foundry video. Algorithms. It looked a lot better in Red Dead Redemption 2.
Yeah.
We have mod updates. There is a modder on Reddit making an app called Steam Fixes Downloader, which he's immediately said, please, can someone think of a better name for this tool? But it essentially is an app that will allow you to easily download and install essential mods and fixes for Steam games. So there'll be a list and it'll go, if you have a bunch of old games like me, so for example, I was playing Bully. That game is super broken. You need to mod that game to run it on Steam.
Yeah.
Dead Space. Mouse acceleration. Dead Space 2008. Mouse acceleration is fucked. The engine it runs in is pretty bad. You need to mod that game to get it like...
The PC port of the original Dead Space was always terrible. That's why I played on... Well, I had a console at the time. That's why I played on console.
But there's a... So it's not meant to be a universal mod downloader. It's not like a Vortex or whatever, right? It is, but rather a small curated list of the must-have fixes and mods for games, and that have troubles running on modern systems out the box. Yeah, so it's set up so it'll download it and install it into your game for you.
I assume because of the small list, they got in contact with the authors and stuff. Then okay.
Well, right now it can install and uninstall fixes while backing up and restoring your original files, and setting games to always run as admin if they require that to work properly. And they've said they're currently working on a way to allow users to contribute their fixes to the database, and it will be open source once it's released. Somebody also asked about the PC Gaming Wiki, which is a linked resource on the mod, but they've said they prefer not to just pull directly from the PC Gaming Wiki because some of the mods on there are not required. And he wanted the intent was to gather only the most necessary fixes, not everything that's available.
Yeah, I have issues with what they have listed as well, so that's probably good.
And there is a Linux version coming soon as well.
Yeah, if there any deckers? Any
Steam deckers? Yeah, here's the Reddit post by Has No Games. So interesting to see that when that fully releases. Next up we have Quake Combat Plus, a mod for the original Quake version. This is not running on the remaster. This is the original Quake, but it's taking the ideas of Quake SMC, Quake 1.5, and built on the Dark Places mod engine. And it is adding new AI, new enemies, improved arsenal, feedback, balance, fun, enhanced visuals, bug fixes, overhauling the nightmare difficulty, new options, more diversity to death, so you can like blow people up and have them explode. It reminds me of like Brutal Doom in a lot of ways, where it's just like, let's add more blood and explosions to this shit. Let's go crazy. But yeah, this looks really cool. I'd like to see more of this. Next up we have Manic Miners, Tony. So I sent you this when I saw this, and I said, Tony, have you ever played this Lego game? So as a kid, I would play Lego Island 1 and 2 and Lego Races 1 and 2, and I have vivid memories of it, and I love those games. And I remember playing those games. I watched the trailer for this, and it like unlocked core memories in my mind. I was like, I've played this game as a kid. I used to play this game all the time, and I completely forgot about it.
I've never seen this before in my life. It's like Dungeon Keeper Lego.
Yeah, it's like a fucking RTS underground mining game sort of thing. Like I used to play this all the time as a kid. Like I can't believe I completely forgot about this game. And they've like, it's a fan project that's completely remastered it called Manic Miners. Rock Raiders. And they've also, the guy to the soundtrack re-uploaded the like full high quality versions on SoundCloud some year ago. So they've got like the awesome soundtrack in like a high quality version as well. I've got this downloaded off, it's available on itch. So I've got it downloaded. Right. And I'm really hoping we don't see a cease and desist from the Lego company. But
yeah,
based on the Lego Half-Life 2 mods that were taken down from the workshop of Gmod, we'll have to wait and see. But I have this downloaded, and maybe we'll do like a spotlight on this game, because I'm really interested to try this out.
Yeah, I think the normal.
Oh my god, you can make
Lego
custom
Lego
the Brickster and the Racer guy.
Yeah. But I think that when Lego company again gets involved, because they don't always like, there's a lot of like custom stuff that obviously Lego doesn't take down. I think if you use their brand names, you're screwed. So I'm a bit confused how this is going to work, because obviously their logos are in the game.
This game, Tony, you could do it from like top down, or you could go into first person. You could go on like shooting bugs, which is like what I did a lot.
Pet the slug.
But they've also basically they've put the campaign in there. And then they've like fixed the bugs, and then they've done like a remastered mode where they've like enhanced it, and then they have a mode where it's like, here's the original campaign with all of its quirks if you want to play it, because it's like, it was super broken for the time, like it was super hard and it was not great. But they're like, hey, if you really want to experience that, like you can. Like I don't like, as a kid, I don't think I ever completed this game. I was like fucking awful at it. But it was very interesting. And I'm interested to try and play this again and see what it's like. But I think it's in Unreal Engine 4, maybe? Let me check the itch.io page and see if it tells you. What did they remake it in?
Yeah, because I assume they took assets and like imported it and then like redid everything.
They may have just made them themselves. I'm not sure.
Yeah. But if they've removed all the Lego branded like trademarked icons and things and logos, if they've remade it, maybe it's fine. I don't know. All I'm gonna say is that they probably can't call it Lego. They can't call it Lego Rock Raiders. They might need to not have Lego in that.
Well, they're saying Manic Miners a Lego Rock Raiders fan remake. They're trying to come under the a fan project. You remember when people would upload songs to YouTube and they would go, please don't copyright me, I'm just a fan. Like it was some sort of legal defense. Guys, you cannot DMCA this song.
It's like
I'm a fan. I'm a fan, and I'm just uploading it for fan purposes.
That Tom Scott video talking about the copyright is like they're using it like it's like the lawyers are vampires and they're just using like a silver cross. But fun fact, I don't know if you knew this, but the lawyer, the real lawyer they got, that was Legal Eagle in that video.
Oh yeah, I know Legal Eagle.
He's a good YouTuber.
I've watched his videos. So we were talking about Rockstar Games, and Take-Two were hiring modders to help make their future games. Take-Two has just DMCA taken down a GTA 5 mod that adds AI NPC characters.
Okay, that's good.
Is it good? I mean, they're DMCAing modders?
No.
I thought maybe you were being like fuck AI or
no. I don't know. I mean, sure, like they are a bit dubious, but I think this is fine. But yeah, no, it's just a shame because like
we've seen a lot of this stuff recently where people are modding AI dialogue into stuff like Skyrim and stuff like that.
I personally think it's very dubious. I'd rather it be handcrafted. However, I can understand the novelty. I can understand the appeal of it. So, not for me personally, but it's a shame that not even allowed to have it up.
Yeah,
like I feel like artwork stuff is like if you're doing like art, like I can understand like the ethical quandaries, but for this, I don't think there's any real problem.
And next up we have
that front, but...
the future of Vortex and the Nexus mod app. I don't know if you've read this, but Nexus put out a statement recently saying they go over the history of Vortex. They're saying the original devs were working on Vortex. They left. They recruited more devs to continue working on Vortex. And although it was a broad user base with was challenging. So like new users want like a really simple experience where you just click download and it does the mod. Experienced modders wanted way more control, where they like want to tweak individual features and are more willing to have it be less simple. But they've basically
would say, if you've used I use Mod Organizer, not Vortex. I do not like Vortex. I think Mod Organizer is both simpler and more complicated.
Well, they were saying alongside the continued development of Vortex, they've put together a new team of experienced developers from the community to begin work on our next generation of mod management software dubbed the Nexus Mods app. So the app team combines the skills of developers who have worked on Vortex, Mod Organizer 2, Wabberjack, and several other modding tools.
And I will say, so Vortex was not always Vortex before that. At one point, the people from Mod Organizer 2 were working with Vortex, but then they kind of left. I think they disagreed with the direction or something. I can't remember the details. I could be wrong there, but there has been a history where like Mod Organizer team have been involved before. But I think I don't think they ever fell out or anything. But yeah, what I was gonna say, one thing I think is like critical because like in this is Kerbal Space Program 1 I'm going to talk about, but this is like a couple years ago. But like the big thing with like those mods is like there's a tool that downloaded all like like it's okay. Say you have like a mod that has like 10 other mods that it needed to require, right?
Yeah.
In this Kerbal Space Program tool, it would automatically download all the dependencies and put it in the right order. I think the more modern and simple to use version of that needs to have that. But then, like obviously, then you should have control.
Well, so basically,
if you want to edit it,
they said with their old funding, Vortex was designed to be developed and maintained by one dev. So the idea was they would have one dev, he would work on it, but they got more funding from having more supporters and donators, and people buying probably a big flush of people buying the lifetime subscription to Nexus mods. And they were like, we can actually have a small development team and we're not having to like heavily rely on volunteers, but they are still primarily relying on volunteer work.
They can have a core maintenance team they can actually pay for.
But they're basically saying, look, we can have a small dev team. And we were like, at this point, if we want to update the code for Vortex, we'd essentially have to build it from the ground up. If we're going to if we have to rebuild it from the ground up, why don't we just build something new?
Yeah.
So the idea is they're going to make this Nexus Mods app, which in essence would be like a Vortex 2, but
which Vortex is already a Nexus tool too already, so it's almost like Nexus 3.
The big advantage to Nexus was you can go onto a page and you can just click install with Vortex, and it's just integrated into the website instead of a manual download.
I will say though, if you set up Mod Organizer, you do the same thing. It's agnostic. It's just
if you hit the Vortex button, it will just do it through Mod Organizer. Okay, that's cool.
But if you go to the downloads, go to the file tab, on a specific mod, you can set up Mod Organizer and another one, and then the download through Vortex will download it in whatever app you're using.
Mod Manager download is here.
Yeah, just they renamed it to be more generic because it used to be just like not before. This is before Vortex. Like download with Nexus Mod Manager.
Oh, okay.
So for me, if I set up Mod Organizer, I press that button, it goes to my Mod Organizer, not Vortex.
But they basically said the Nexus Mods app, their new app, is considered pre-alpha, which means it's not suitable for use by the general public. So we'll have to wait and see how long it takes them to develop this new mod and whether it's going to deprecate Vortex and replace it, or how good it will be.
As a person willing to tinker with it, I'm wondering how usable it is now.
No. It's the end of the
I'm
mod
kind of
news.
curious to know what their design philosophies are. Like, I'm kind of curious.
Let's move on.
Back into modding.
Move on to Steam news. We have Valve has given Remote Play a long overdue overhaul. Steam Remote Play gets support for 4K high quality streaming presets. So you can now, the Remote Play Together feature, you can now stream 4K video to people when you play games with each other. Yeah.
Nice.
Which is cool to see. I think I've used that feature like a couple of times and then kind of gave up on it when it initially released. I have no idea if it's any good now. Before. I think the problem was the people I was streaming it to didn't have very good internet, so it's so hard to tell. Like whether
you need like bandwidth and latency, right?
You need to find a game that has online multiplayer but has local multiplayer, and then you need a bunch of people who all have good internet and trying to wrangle them all into this container of remote play. I mean, it's a good idea and it's great that it exists, but it's hard to do the remote couch co-op thing.
Yeah. I always saw it as like it'd be a great tool for like small developers that can't afford to put in proper co-op or online co-op and only can afford to do local co-op. But I think, I don't know, I feel like we're getting better and better tools to do online co-op. Not someone who done it myself, but I'd like to say it's easier now.
There was a tool people said they really liked to use. It was called like Moonlight, and it was basically people really liked it because it was using like the Nvidia coding codecs. I don't know if it was NVENC, but it was essentially like it had very good bit rate and quality without losing too much over the net. It would be cool. It would be cool if Valve was like, we're adding AV1 streaming to.
A lot of the problem is more than just like what you do with like the like sending and receiving the bits. So it's like how does your game engine handle it? I think is like more the development time. But having a like drop-in, almost like plugin or drop-in library that you can use to like do at least the communication side of it. Yeah, it is pretty big.
Yeah, you can currently stream to 4K over Steam Remote Play, I believe. Like streaming to your phone and tablet or whatever, I think. I'm not sure. Like I streamed from my computer to my 4K TV, and I don't know if it was just upscaling it, but maybe it was, and now it's native 4K.
I don't know. You got like an AI upscaler on your TV, right?
Well, I mean, Steam upscales itself as well. So
okay.
Like every time I plug on my Steam Deck, I just render it native resolution and then it upscales it to 4K. But I don't know. I never use Remote Play Together, and I almost never use Remote Play to stream stuff from my computer to my TV.
I've only just had to, I think we've done it a couple of times. I feel like it's just easier if the game has proper co-op.
Yeah. Well, we'll talk about useless streaming devices in a second. Updates to Steam's minimum price thresholds. So basically, you might be impacted if your game or DLC priced at or below $5. Games now must be at least $1 or equivalent and cannot go on sale for less than 50 cents. So this is to stop basically countries like Argentina or Turkey or Venezuela. Like there were games that were like 3 or 4 cents, and credit card companies would reject the transaction because the transactions were so small that it was not worth making. But yeah, obviously this is gonna impact people in those countries probably. Yeah, it says the regional equivalent, so the $1 equivalent in those countries might not be too bad, but this is basically, I guess, to try and stop pricing stuff that is unfavorable, or
I
think it is regional pricing stuff, or
yeah, I'm going to assume this is entirely based on. Yeah, it has to be regional. So entirely like based on like credit card charges. So I could and I assume because like USD is like the standard, like it have to
okay.
be
So somebody in the comments is saying rip free software on Steam. It's like free software does not have a price and therefore is not affected by the minimum.
Yeah, you can still release free DLC. That's still allowed.
We have seen a lot of these like sub $5 games, like Vampire Survivors is a great example of a game that was super popular because it cost like £3 on Steam. Or like XCOM 2 went on like super cheap. Wasn't it like 90p or something on sale or something like that?
I think it was quite. I think it was it was like close to £1. I think XCOM 1 might have been 12.
On to tech. PlayStation's first remote play dedicated device, officially dubbed the PlayStation Portal Remote Player, to launch later this year at £200. So, Tony, I thought this.
Is it as stupid as we thought it was?
It's even more stupid.
Oh, there's more stuff. Okay, I've watched a Marcus Brownlee short on it, and that's all I've seen after it's like.
So I've read the article, right?
Okay.
So when you want audio,
it has the Bluetooth.
It has no. When you want audio for this device, they were like, "We're going to remove Bluetooth from this device
and have our own proprietary."
Yes.
Oh my god.
So they've created this new proprietary wireless audio system called the PlayStation Link that only exists inside their new Pulse headphones and earbuds.
Right.
So if you want to listen to this device wirelessly, you need to have these proprietary new like $200 headphones.
Does it even have like an audio jack on the device?
It has a 3.5 audio jack on the device. So you can
at least it has
plug in a pair of headphones, but I don't know about you, Tony.
Oh my god!
Everything, all of my headphones and earphones are Bluetooth wireless.
Every device I have is wireless. Yes.
That was a problem for me when my Logitech headphones broke, because there was literally no way to use them wired via a 3.5 jack or anything.
Yeah.
So I don't know how many people the whole idea is that you're going to be sitting on the couch playing this. I don't know how many people are going to want to have to plug this in via a jack and be tethered to it.
No. So you can you have to set. So what you have to do is you set your PS5 to connect the PS5 has to be on. It connects to the internet, but as long as you have a good internet connection, you can play it anywhere in the world.
I believe you don't need your PS5 on, so this can turn your PS5 on from the device.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. But it has to be on while you're playing it.
Yeah.
That's what I mean. That's fine, yeah. It has to be in standby, I assume. But yeah, I would assume like it's a sleek. Like, why would you not? Like, it is okay. Fine, it's like a streaming handheld.
Wait. I've just read something and I'm like, what the fuck? The Pulse Elite is our new wireless headphone that offers lossless audio and includes a retractable boom mic with AI enhanced noise reduction. Are they calling the little piece of plastic that comes out the headphone a boom mic?
Yes.
That's so dumb. Is that a thing other people do, or is that just Sony?
I think it's just Sony. I don't know. Maybe it is. I wouldn't call it. I mean, maybe technically it is.
Technically, it's a microphone on a stick, and I guess that's what a boom is. But if that is the technical definition, it still sounds dumb.
Yeah, just call it what it is. It's just a fucking microphone on a stick. But yeah, I feel like if you got a handheld device, like we're not on the DS days, right? Like back then, it made sense why you'd have like an audio jack. I mean, you should always have an audio jack, but to only have the audio jack or proprietary software, like I just feel like, why can we not just have Bluetooth? Like Bluetooth is ubiquitous. Everything has Bluetooth now. Like, is Bluetooth a problem?
Big problem.
Like Sony sells Bluetooth headphones. Is Bluetooth a problem?
As someone currently wearing Sony Bluetooth headphones,
you're wearing them.
I could not connect to this device with my headphones.
It's okay, so stupid.
From what I've heard, apparently over at Sony, there's like massive infighting between like the different. So like the Sony PlayStation guys and the Sony TV guys and the Sony headphones guys are constantly fighting each other to get like resources or
Sony. Sony's like a Hydra.
I think they made this and they just didn't talk to the Sony headphone guys at all.
Yeah.
But I know Sony just bought like a brand new audio company, so that this is they're probably like, well, we can make our own proprietary audio tech and put it into this brand new feature that people will want to buy.
Yeah.
Well, I'll see if I can. Audies. They acquired Audies, a leader in audio technology and developer of award-winning headphones for gaming.
Where were they based? Like what country are they
based? I don't know. They bought them 3 days ago. So, according to this article, this article was published 3 days ago.
Was it just all of Sony bought them?
I don't know.
Because I feel like it's just so weird.
It was Sony. Sony Interactive Entertainment to acquire Audies.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm trying.
Don't get me wrong. Okay.
Give me the map of Sony. Like, you genuinely, if you talk about Sony and like business stuff, you need a map. Otherwise, you have no idea what refers to what, and it's just.
It's like Sony was originally a Japanese company, I believe.
Yes.
But then they've become like super Americanized, and to a point where I heard people were getting like attacked for speaking in Japanese in meetings, or like they wanted everyone to be speaking in it. Like, there's something going on at Sony. I don't know. But it's now much more. It's much more of a multicultural company than it was starting out as the Japanese company. From what I've heard from articles,
I think there's definitely.
I've talked about it on the podcast before.
But they are definitely a Hydra with like some arms or some head. Like there's been I need to Google this thing because I don't think I've ever looked into this probably, but I've heard of like one head of Sony, like Sony Music, like suing like Sony Entertainment or something. Like that has happened.
So don't get me wrong, I love the DualSense controller. I think it's great. But I've heard a lot of people saying yes. I've been using the barebone one, which is like the mobile attachment. Do you have you seen the barebone one?
Oh,
it's the mobile attachment that basically adds a like a DualSense style controller onto a mobile clip, so you can use a controller to play them. People are like, I've just been using PS Now to stream games to my phone, and then using the barebone one to control them. Finally, I've been waiting for this. I can play on my PlayStation 5 while my wife watches TV. And for those people, I say, yes, this device now exists. And I'm like, but did you know for that amount of money and a little bit more, you could buy a Switch OLED. You could buy a Steam Deck.
Yeah.
Need I say more?
And it's like, and like the screen size is so small, like you don't need to stream it. Like we now have the power and the cooling and the battery life to like have it playable locally.
A lot of Sony games are being released on Steam.
Yeah, and a Steam Deck compatible.
But I get it. Like, look, okay, I gotta go into the mind of someone who wants to buy this. You're a PlayStation owner. You have a PS5, and you have a massive collection of games on PlayStation. You don't want to buy them again on Steam. You don't want to buy them again on. You don't want to buy a bunch of games on your Switch. You're like, look, I just want to play on my PlayStation, but my wife wants to watch TV, and we've got one TV. You could buy a second screen, and you could buy another TV, but then you wouldn't be in the same room. I guess it's kind of like a community aspect.
You couldn't take this on the go either.
You can't take this on the go. No.
Yeah, you can.
I thought you have to stream it from a PlayStation 5.
Yeah, but it goes to the internet.
But there's no PlayStation. Tony, there's no PlayStation Now on this.
No, it's not PlayStation Now. It's a weird system. My understanding is you have to connect to PS5.
There is no cloud streaming. You have to be in your house with your PS5.
It's not cloud streaming. It's from your PS5 specifically.
Exactly.
It connects to the internet, and then you connect through Sony servers to your specific PS5. Is what I've been told and understood.
You have to be connected to the same Wi-Fi as the PS5, right?
That's not what I was told. That's not what I was told.
Okay. But even then, if you were out and about, you would have to be connecting to the Wi-Fi of your PS5?
Yeah. Well, it has to be... I
don't think that's how it works, though.
No,
I think it is that dumb.
That's what I was told, though. I don't know. It could if it's in your... Okay. I don't think it's dumb either way. If it's only your Wi-Fi, like your personal Wi-Fi in your own house, that's super dumb. If it's the other way around, where like you can connect to it from anywhere in the world as long as you have a good internet connection, you still need a good internet connection. Otherwise, it's going to go horribly, right? And I just feel like so it can't be for public transport. And it's like okay. My question is, why is it so expensive? Like, what's in it that's so expensive? Like, why is this so expensive?
So it's a 1080p 60 FPS LED screen glued to a PS5 controller.
But there's no massive CPU in there. Like, it has it has chips in there to drive the screen. It has chips in there to drive like decoding video, I suppose, because it needs to actually take stuff from the internet or your Wi-Fi connection, whichever it is, and then display it on your screen, and it has to process the controllers. It's not like an AMD APU, right? So why is it so expensive? Like the Switch OLED has an OLED controllers and an actual
a Tegra X1 chip in it.
Yeah.
That's
gone down in price over the years, but
the Steam Deck has an RDNA 2 APU GPU inside of it. So people were like, okay, when they release this, they're gonna have the ability to play the emulated PlayStation Classic games, because that would be super easy to run on anything. You could run that on a phone. Nope, just PS5.
Yeah.
You can't emulate games on this. You can't do anything else on it. You can play PS5 games on it while your wife watches TV. That seems like its only use. And to some people, that seems to be very valuable. But to the general market, I think this is not going to be picked up at all. Especially, why the fuck would you make such a niche project that requires you to have a brand new proprietary system in it? It does not come with Bluetooth. It is so dumb. You cannot do PlayStation Now streaming. You cannot do emulation. Like, I don't know, like what the fuck.
For that price, I would have expected, right, a PS Vita that can then also stream your PS5 locally.
Only the PS Vita had an OLED screen.
Yeah, I know, it's crazy.
This has an LCD panel.
Why is this not a handheld and why is it not its own little console and a streaming console, like a streaming handheld?
I think the PSP and the PS Vita are like some of the best handheld consoles of all time. But I think I don't know if you know this, the PSP is one of the best selling consoles of all time in history.
It was pretty,
but I think after the PSP Vita didn't do too well, Sony's just like, right, we're not making a handheld device. We're not, putting in the time and the resources. But they've seen that there is a want to play like a Wii U gamepad style, play your game collection on the toilet or by somebody else in a room while they're watching TV. So they're like, you know what? We will make this device. It feels like they're putting in a lot of resources for such a niche market, but
yeah,
I guess if that niche market means it's people buying more games on PlayStation because it's like Steam can sell the Steam Deck at a loss because people buy games on Steam. Xbox can sell the Xbox at a loss because people buy Games Pass. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. I'd be really interested to see like a full-on review of this, or whether I really want to see like MVG or someone just take this apart and completely hack it and see if you can get like a emulator running on it somehow. I don't know. I'm gonna have to wait and see. Or like hack it. Imagine there's like a Bluetooth chip on it and they just have it disabled. That would be so funny. If that was...
I found I'm gonna send you. Okay, going back to like the whole like, is it only at local Wi-Fi or things, or like is it internet connection? I'm gonna send you like this is a direct quote from another part of the like, PlayStation stuff, right?
Right.
I'm gonna send it to you on Discord. This is direct from their thing.
Like, your home
part
Wi-Fi
of the FAQ.
network represents a great option for use of PlayStation Remote Player because you have control of the quality of your own home Wi-Fi. It is not required. PlayStation Portable Remote Player can also be played whether you have access to broadband internet Wi-Fi of at least 5 megabits per second.
Yeah,
I guess megabytes.
So you have to put your So I was reading in this page. It explains you have to.
If you're
put your
using
PS5
public
into
Wi-Fi, be aware
mode.
the quality of the internet is very control. So you can take this outside.
So they're saying, it's best. The way I'm reading this, and correct me if you read it differently.
Yeah,
I read it as it works best with your home Wi-Fi because there's like less latency. But as long as you have 5 megabits connection and your PS5 is in remote mode, like there's a special mode on your PS5 for this to work, you can then play with any broadbands.
Okay, I used PlayStation Now a long time ago to stream from a PlayStation on my PC.
We talked about the podcast, right?
It was fucking awful. The quality of their like game streaming that I've seen so far from... Obviously, this was... Like, I think it was on beta on PC. But from what I've heard, PlayStation Now game streaming has not improved, like, massively. Like,
no,
they are leagues behind... They're leagues behind Nvidia GeForce Now, and they're even behind, like, Stadia and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. And
if you're behind...
I think the Stadia technology was okay.
If you're behind Stadia and that shit got shut down, I don't know.
Yeah. Okay, in my opinion, I think that's why they're pushing the... Like, in the article that you were bringing up, like it only ever mentioned local Wi-Fi. I think that's why, because I think they know it's like a really bad experience if you don't do that. But then it still seems like a terrible product. If it's going to be terrible with any broadband, it only works in your own home at its best, and it's so expensive for what it is. Like if this was what is the actual price, by the way? Because like I'm trying
$200 or £200, I think it is.
$200.
£200 in the Great British pounds.
Yeah, I don't know. I just feel like if they sold it as $300, but it was also like a PS Vita,
a base edition refurbished Steam Deck is £270.
Exactly.
A Switch OLED is like £270.
If they sold it for slightly more, but could do more, I think that would make more sense. Like you can't tell me like. If the controllers are 60, I know like they're not, but like
no, we got to move on. We got
controllers are 60. The screen must be like £140 with the chips. That's crazy.
Rumor, speculation. MSI has leaked that the Intel 4th gen will have a 3% performance uplift over the 13th gen. So it seems like the next generation of Intel CPUs might actually not be that much bigger of a gap than the previous ones, and we'll have to see how they do pricing for that. They may just be like 3% performance, 10% price uplift.
I guess as well, we don't know what they were running for the see that. Is that in gaming? Like, what do we know what this was in? Like, what was the performance benchmark?
I'll have to look it up. I don't. No. There is an article, but I didn't link to it. So I'm just.
Obviously it was. We were saying this is rumor.
It was a slide on.
So Intel was on slide.
Well, it was so MSI accidentally posted a video that has written in it on red NDA do not share, and they basically were saying there's no architectural changes, so it's the same Intel 7 10 nanometer. On average, 3% faster than the 13th gen, and then the 14700K would be 17% faster, but that's because that it's getting 4 extra efficiency cores.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah.
I think that's not as terrible as like.
So the 14700K might actually be like a good value to get.
Yeah. It depends on the price, obviously, but yeah.
Yeah. We'll have to. This is rumor speculation. We don't have. This is based on MSI leaking it. I think there was another company that leaked it as well, which is why it was corroborated.
Right. But yeah. I mean, I believe that. Yeah, I believe the source. That's fine.
I believe MSI is stupid enough to leak NDA slides on a video.
They have a giant dragon, of course.
Let's move on to AMD tech. So AMD has announced the RX. Yeah, AMD news. AMD has announced the Radeon RX 7800 XT and the Radeon RX 7700 XT enthusiast class RDNA 3 for 1440p gaming. So we have the 7700X is coming in at $450, and it's going to be a 12 gigabyte card. And the $500 7800 XT is a 16 gigabyte card. At $500. And this is hoping to beat the $400 4060 Ti 8 gigabyte / 16 gigabyte, which I have to say because there's two SKUs of that card at different weights.
Let's ignore the 16 gigabyte, mate.
Is it the 4060 Ti that has two SKUs, or is it the 4060 base?
I think it's the Ti.
Yeah. And then the Ford is going against the $600 4070 with 12 gigabytes. And based on AMD's benchmark, so we've only seen AMD's benchmark so far for this, so we don't actually know whether, third-party benchmarks, this is true. But according to AMD's benchmarks, the 7800 XT, which is $100 cheaper than the 4070, is beating it in rasterization, and on a couple of ray tracing titles is actually beating it by a couple of percent. And then obviously on most of the RT things is losing, but that's something we've seen basically across the board from AMD, is their ray tracing is a lot weaker than Nvidia. Whereas their rasterization is... Sorry?
Do you have the pricing for these yet?
I just read that out.
Oh yeah, okay.
The $450 for the 7700X and the $500 for the 7800.
So it is still competitive to versus the Nvidia equivalent then.
You're getting the 7800. It's a $500 GPU. You're getting 16 gigabytes of memory. You're getting DisplayPort 2.0 run. You're getting AV1 encoding. You're getting very good rasterization. You're getting some gains in RT. This could be a very good value buy against the 12 gigabyte 4070, which the 4070 is actually kind of the okay price to performance card in the the 4090 is good, but it's so fucking expensive. Yeah. And then the 4070 is kind of okay in terms of price to performance. So competing with the 4070 and beating it in rasterization from AMD is a really good pull if they're able to get this, because I could see tons of mid-range 1440p gamers flocking to this card if these graphs are true. Obviously, grain of salt. AMD is always going to want their cards to look the best because they make the cards. But
even if they show games that are negative, they're kind of handpicked. So
it is nice to see that they're not, super behind on ray tracing. I think with the Nvidia news, we're going to be talking about. We've been looking for AMD to step up with these features with no DLSS 3 competitor or no hard ray tracing support, but.
I as someone who's I feel like ray tracing is definitely I think ray tracing definitely is the future, but I know some people still but ray trace, you still need to have rasterizing performance first. It's I think seeing AMD actually have proper ray tracing graphs in their slides is it's good. But they're actually using it, showing it, they're actually focusing on it. I think that's very good.
Yeah, so we have seen AMD has announced FSR 3, so their competitor to DLSS 3 is coming out September 6th. I don't know if you know this, Tony, but Starfield is coming out September 6th. That's kind of sus, isn't it? I like how that game's coming out in a couple of weeks and they still haven't outright announced it's having FSR 3, and I'm just like, I wonder if this game's going to have FSR 3. And with the new GPUs as well, they're offering a free copy of Starfield with the new GPUs. I think you found they're also offering it with CPUs as well.
With the 3Ds, the
3D ones, Starfield copies. So FSR 3, it is using fluid motion, is what they're calling it. It is basically using temporal data, and it's essentially generating alternative frames by estimating an immediate between two frames rendered by the GPU. So it's kind of similar to like how motion smoothing works on a TV, but much more powerful.
But I guess that's why I call it fluid motion, I suppose.
So it works on the latest Radeon RX 7000 series as well as previous RX 6000 series RDNA 2 graphics cards.
Oh, 6000 as well.
Yeah, I think they said might be possible on the 5000 series, but they recommend 6000 and above.
Do you saying like they recommend on Nvidia side 3000?
Yeah, so it works. It works. They've said it works in Nvidia GeForce series, so 40 series, 30 series, and 20 series. But they recommended 30 series and above to get the most out of it. You need
some sort of tensor. You need some sort of AI cores to do anything.
Well, the tensor cores exist on all of the RTX cards, whereas I think they only add the AI cores to the 7000 series.
Yeah, I can't remember if they added 6000 or just the 7000, but I remember there being much later than what Nvidia were doing.
But
I think
it might even be. They reckon it might even be possible to use FSR with the Intel Arc as well, but AMD wouldn't confirm it. So they basically said they recommend a minimum frame rate of 60 FPS, which is in par with like the DLSS 3 and Digital Foundry's findings on DLSS 3 is you need like a solid high, like a 60-70 smooth frame rate, and then you can go up to like the 120, 144. You're just trying to cap out the frame rate of your the hertz of your high refresh monitor is what you're trying to do with this sort of technology. It's so because it's possible in RDNA 2, it's possible this could work on the console. So it's possible this could work on a PS5 or an Xbox Series X or S. It's possible this could run on an ROG Ally. It's possible this could run on a Steam Deck. But we are seeing a lot of 30 FPS locks on console because of the heavy Unreal Engine 5 suite, such as like Lumen and Nanite and stuff like this. I don't know if we're actually going to see FSR 3 on these games, considering you need such a high base frame rate. Like, if a lot of games are launching at 30 these days, so
it depends. Like if there's. Depends how it uses like other parts of the chip and like does it like impede on it? And then,
so this will be coming out September 6th with Starfield. Forspoken and Immortals of Avium will get FSR 3 patches this fall or autumn if you're a European person. Do they use fall in Japan or Asia or I don't know?
Well, they have a different language over there.
Donkey Kongu. Let's translate. Google Translate.
I think it's gonna be because let's be honest, like fall and also describe the same thing, so it's gonna be difficult to. You have to get the literal translation, like what's it actually referring to?
Aki.
What is that? What's the literal translation of it?
Aki.
If you type fall or autumn into Google Translate, it goes to Aki.
Aki.
Yeah. Aki. But you would.
There you go. But those will be the first games other than Starfield to get the support for it. So like Immortals of Avium is already a game we're seeing people complaining about performance being too heavy. So obviously would make a lot of sense to have SSR3 on that game. Forspoken again is another game, really forward-thinking features added to the game, but obviously still quite heavy to run. FSR3 could free up that CPU bottleneck I believe the game has. And they've got a long list of games that will be getting support in the future. So Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, Cyberpunk 2077, Warhammer 2 Space Marine, Frostpunk 2, Alters Squad, Starship Troopers Extermination, Black Myth Wukong, Crimson Desert, and Like a Dragon Infinite Wealth. And the company is also working with nearly all leading game publishers. So
I am really curious how this is going to work with like top-down, like turn-based or not, like strategy stuff, so, like or city builders. Like I'm really curious how that's going to work out.
But they were going to work with like leading game publishers to add FSR3 support to them. So Ascendant, Square Enix, Ubisoft, CD Projekt Red, Saber Interactive, Focus, 11-Bit Studios, Unreal Engine, Sega, and Bandai Namco, Reflector. They said they're working on an Unreal Engine plugin for FSR3, so you'll be able to like easily add FSR3 into your game, which would be huge. Like, given that this is a hardware agnostic technology, it's always cool to have more options.
As long as AMD doesn't force people to only have that.
We have a article here on Eurogamer where Digital Foundry was actually allowed to have a hands-off look at FSR3. So they said initially they didn't want them to talk about it until after Gamescom, I believe, but I think they allowed them to talk about it, and they basically said, well, I've put it's a big win for gamers because it's more choice. So they saw an early demo of AMD's Fluid Motion Frames, AFMF, which is a driver-level frame generation option for all DirectX 11 and DirectX 12 titles. So FSR3 requires implementation from the developers because it requires additional game driver-level data. But they're also developing a version called AFMF, which is like FSR1 to FSR2, where it's just using a driver level feature to add it to any game without developer integration. And they saw it implemented into The Last of Us Part 1, which is a CPU bound game, and it works. So this is using the optical flow data only, so there's no motion vector input from FSR2, which is what you would need to when they integrate it into these bespoke titles.
Which would make it improve it more.
But that means the best AMF can do is interpolate a new frame between two standard rendered frames, similar to the way a TV does it, albeit with far less latency. So as well as FSR3, which we've seen AI generated frame adds input latency with DLSS3. They're combining it with their new anti-lag plus feature. So anti-lag is essentially the Radeon version of Nvidia's ultra low latency mode, which they made the ultra low latency plus mode for DLSS3 that is turned on usually, which I think most people turn on Nvidia low latency on in games like 70 to 80% of the game when it's offered, because people just like lower latency, it seems like. But so it's cool that there's a new feature added for Nvidia users.
What's the actual trade-off with that? I always consider, like, why is this just not on if it's available?
I think potentially it could cause issues.
Because it's sort of half predicting, isn't it? Like sometimes, but not always. Sometimes it's just simplifying the input, like the I/O, stream.
I think I can't remember if you need a certain type of card to run it, which is maybe what I can't.
It's Nvidia Reflex, isn't it? Like the technology called.
I think Nvidia Reflex is the suite that ultra low latency comes under.
Right.
So Reflex is like a brand of monitors that have the lowest latency and responsiveness. And then under the Reflex brand, you would be running ultra low latency mode. It's funny because RTX is branding for Nvidia, but everyone uses it as the replacement for ray tracing now.
Yeah.
But so they saw The Last of Us Part 1 running at circa 160 FPS and higher, albeit with VSync turned off. So there was screen tearing, and they suspect this was because it was running outside the screen's VRR range. Right now, AFMF works with VSync off, but AMD is looking to add VSync support. So the normal AMD FSR 3, the fluid motion version, is running with VSync on in order to make sure there's no screen tearing. But yeah, for a smooth frame rate, for AFMF, you need smooth frame rates of like 60, 70 or above. It's similar to the Radeon Boost driver level dynamic resolution scaling feature. So AMD has a driver level dynamic resolution scaling feature, but the tech is automatically disabled in response to rapid mouse movement, presumably to prevent obvious visual anomalies that will occur in frame generation. So that's something to consider. Like, you may not want to use some of this technology by default. I don't know if there's something that Nvidia low latency or FSRs or the AMD anti-lag does that might not always be beneficial, but it seems like most of the time it is.
I was trying to do a quick Google search on the Nvidia stuff, and it's like you search for it, and it's like, oh, here's all the positives. Like I was trying to look for the negatives actually, so I don't know. I don't.
So like,
I think I need to look for
FSR 3 needs a high base rate with the potential to cap out your display to a 120 or 144, which I was saying like the Steam Deck could do it, but you already have a 60 hertz display, so you want to be trying to hit that 60 FPS anyway. But the Asus ROG Ally is a handheld with an RDNA 3 graphics APU in it, and it has a 120 hertz VRR display. So this actually could be like a really good technology for like the Asus ROG Ally, which is like a really interesting use case for that, because we've seen the extra power you can get out of that RDNA chip, and it's also going to make it so you can run this new AMD FSR 3 feature a lot better. So yeah, it's gonna be really interesting to see.
I assume could you not do it in a way where it's like for the same FPS you could technically run it at a lower, like you're using less power? Is that a potential use case, or is it just much better
using upscaling to use less resources?
Yeah.
Or FSR 3 to use less resources.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Or is it like doesn't work? I think because I thought there might. I can't remember now, but wasn't there problems with DSS 3 at lower frame rates? Like it was much better at going from 60 above than like 30 to 60.
Yeah, 30 is like not a good experience because of the latency issue.
Yeah.
I'm guessing if you have performance overhead, in which you would get from turning FSR 3 on, it's if you have the potential for performance overhead, you would probably just want to turn like the wattage down. You'd want to turn other stuff down rather than doing this. It seems like there's probably more wins
if you do it a different way.
Doing it different ways rather than use FSR 3. But we're really just going to have to wait for this technology to come out and see what it does.
Because this is like a different invitation to S3, so there might be different trade-offs and whatever. So it's interesting though. It definitely is all interesting.
There's a rumor that AMD is aiming to make Starfield their debut FSR 3 game. This was released a couple of weeks ago before Gamescom, so I wonder if that Starfield game, the AMD-sponsored Starfield, will have FSR 3 they keep selling in it.
Yeah, having a massive sponsorship with.
In a roundabout way, AMD confirmed that Starfield doesn't support DLSS. They basically said so AMD's gaming head Frank Azor was questioned about DLSS support in Starfield, and they basically, because it's an AMD sponsored game, they've been refusing to comment on whether a stipulation of AMD sponsored games is you have to use FSR only as an upscaling technology. And the gaming head Frank Azor said AMD asks partner developers to prioritize AMD's own upscaling tech called FSR, but doesn't demand exclusivity. And I mean, if Bethesda want to add DLSS, they totally could. Yeah. This seems like a non-definitive way of saying, we heavily suggest you use FSR, but I guess they could.
Because if it had all the technologies, why wouldn't they just say it works best with FSR, but it has all the other technologies inside?
Well, it's like it's a known feature right now that DLSS image quality is a lot better than AMD. Is
especially on Nvidia
FSR 2.1. You get a lot less artifacting and shimmering. From what I've heard from Digital Foundry, they said DLSS 3 and FSR 3, from what they could see on their hands-off experience, was pretty similar visually to DLSS 3, which is really cool to hear. So Avatar Frontiers of Pandora is another AMD-sponsored game, which we would assume would only have SR upscaling, but the PC features of Avatar Frontiers of Pandora have been revealed, and it is supporting DLSS despite being an AMD-sponsored game. So I don't know if this is a one-off or if AMD's kind of changed their tune and gone, oh shit, we need to stop secretly blocking this stuff, or...
Yeah, because they've been called out on it now, so it's difficult.
And I saw like they did like a Avatar-sponsored AMD GPU they've just come out with, like it's got like Avatar painting on it.
Yeah, I thought it looked pretty cool.
I was watching my niece, and my mum put like the new Avatar film on the television, and I watched it for like half an hour on the 4K OLED Disney Plus. It was on Disney Plus. I was like, okay, I'll sit down and watch it. I was like, and I watched it for like half an hour. My niece was like, it was like got moved into the other room, so I wasn't watching it anymore. And I was like, I looked at the runtime of the film. It was like 3 hours more. And I was like, fuck this shit. I just turned it off. I was like, there's no way I'm watching the rest of this film. It's so boring. And all the characters are like the exact same. It's so hard to tell anyone apart because they're all just blue blobs. And I don't know.
You're not there for the story. You're there for the visuals.
But the visuals don't even look that good.
I look fine.
And it's like they were like the story of what they introduced. It's like, oh my god, they're doing the same story again. Yeah. And then they're also being like, nobody really dies. They're coming back, and it's just like, oh, for fuck's sake, why couldn't James Cameron leave this alone? Do you know James Cameron refused to go to the Oscars because they didn't nominate Avatar for Best Director, I think it was.
Really?
Okay. Well, he basically said, "Oh, I'm not going to the Oscars," and he didn't tell the reason why. But everyone was like, "He's refusing to go because he didn't get the Best Director nomination or whatever." Anyway, aside, film, then, all recent AMD CPUs are affected by the Inception vulnerability. So Zen 3 and 4 CPUs seem to be affected by this. It seems mostly like what's the word when it's not gaming related? It's like synthetic sort of stuff, like rendering and work-based sort of stuff is mostly where it's affected. Okay. It seems like on average it was a 1 to 2% FPS drop for games. That's if you choose to take this BIOS update that will patch the fix.
My understanding, these were like minor security, but like it's like you had to, in order for these to be exploited, you had to have like physical access to your system. So for me personally, I don't really care about those sort of. It's like the Spectre and Meltdown stuff. It's like, I'm not going to be targeted physically, am I?
Oh god, we got so much more of the podcast today. Let's move on to Nvidia news. Nvidia announced DLSS 3.5. So this news actually came out before AMD's news, but basically they have announced that DLSS 3.5 will feature a new technology called ray reconstruction. So what is ray reconstruction? Real-time ray tracing relies on a relatively small number of rays that are cast. So we don't actually have a complete picture. We have an image with both signal and noise that needs a denoising step.
There's some really good animations like showing like if the more. If you had an infinite number of rays, like the real life kind of sort of does, like you can obviously get a bigger, better picture. The less rays you have is like then you get like the result of the image is like very spotty and like almost dithered. If you think about it like that, there's some good animations like that. Yeah, so like they're using they need to like fill in the gaps basically.
So they don't have a complete picture. They have an image with both signal and noise that needs a denoising step. What ray reconstruction is doing is it's been trained on an AI network which. The other stuff wasn't on 5 times as much data as they use to train DLSS 3, the AI frame generation, that can achieve better results. It can use different methods with different ray traced effects and can recognize good pixels and discard bad pixels and retain the high frequency detail that would normally be smoothed away by upscaling. So what does this mean for you? This means you should get a better looking ray traced image with better lighting for the same performance, and in some rare cases, better performance, because instead of using multiple denoisers, you are just using one AI trained ray reflecting algorithm that is going to replace that, meaning some places you actually get better performance by using this technology.
I assume as well, like if you have a card, or I suppose if you're using this technology, I assume you got a card with this. But like if it's using the tensor cores, then again, it's not having to use anything else to do like the
so
use the other
ray reconstruction is running on the tensor cores, so it will be available on all RTX cards, so 20 series, 30 series, and 40 series. There is no optical flow requirement, so even if you're on a 20 series card, you can get better ray tracing thanks to this new technology.
So is this out yet, or is this just announced?
It's not out yet, I believe, but the new denoiser requires additional information from the game to operate. So it's not a simple plug and play where you can just,
it's not a driver.
It's not like the DLSS swapper where you can just swap different version of DLSS. It actually requires developer input. It needs to be added by developers on a per title basis rather than being a universal upgrade for all existing ray tracing titles. So you won't see this in every ray tracing title unless somebody goes back and adds it to it.
I guess my question is, how easy is it to add it to a...
I'm assuming it's probably not hard given the massive documentation we've seen from stuff like DLSS and ray tracing that Nvidia's done and AMD's done as well.
Especially considering the point
how easy it is to add stuff like FSR.
Yeah, I assume especially the philosophy of like the point of like ray tracing from the developer's point of view is like you don't have to do baked-in lighting anymore. It would make no sense if you then had to add lots more steps to make exactly the same with ray tracing.
DLSS 3 frame generation was also announced to be coming to Call of Duty Modern Warfare 3, Payday 3, and Fortnite. While Modern Warfare 3 and Payday 3 are also set to feature reflex to reduce latency, Nvidia's metrics suggest 90% of GeForce Experience users turn on reflex. So this is what I was talking about, was most people just automatically turn on ultra low latency because it just, less latency is better, and it doesn't seem like there's a perceivable downgrade from having this other than having to implement it into the game. Though it is often on by default, thus making it a more universally liked feature than ray tracing or even DLSS. There are people out there that do not like DLSS quality mode, which to me, I think is nuts, because I think DLSS quality mode adds a better looking image sometimes, or most of the time, when you consider it's adding super enhanced anti-aliasing to the image.
Yeah, because its anti-aliasing is much better than most other algorithms.
I have encountered in a couple of games egregious ghosting from DLSS quality. So to mention the ones that I've personally experienced it in, Metro Exodus Enhanced Edition and The Medium, I have both experienced ghosting in those titles.
I think another, not one I've personally experienced, but I've seen on Digital Foundries, Hitman 3 has a big ghosting issue.
Oh, they also mentioned that if you're using like D5 Render, which is a tool to build things using ray tracing, you can actually get a much more detailed preview with the ray reconstruction feature. So this is going to improve workflow sort of stuff as well. My big question is, Modern Warfare 3 and Payday 3 are multiplayer games. Is this the first multiplayer game we're seeing with DLSS 3? Actually, okay, technically Diablo 4 is a multiplayer game with DLSS 3, but it's not a... Technically there is a PvP mode, but there's a PvP area, but it's not really a competitive game in PvP senses. It's going to be interesting to see how many Modern Warfare 3 or Fortnite players are willing to take a potential latency hit with DLSS 3, even if they have the Reflex Plus feature on. So we'll have to wait and see. And as well as this, Tony, we had an announcement that Alan Wake 3 will have DLSS 3.5 and will be fully path traced, which is fucking awesome to see.
Yes,
Remedy's Control is one of the best examples of ray tracing. From what I've heard, I've got it on my playlist. I want to play that at some point. Interested to play Alan Wake as well.
The problem is I need a better ray tracing card.
I think you could run it fine on your 2080. You would just have to make some compromises to
either
frame rate, your DLSS quality, or...
All right, I'll go 10 FPS Ultra.
Yeah. As someone... So, I've played... 3 path trace games, I think. I've played Quake 2 RTX, Portal RTX, and Portal Prelude RTX, and I fucking love the look of path tracing. I think it looks phenomenal. And I've used DLSS 3 in about 4 or 5 games, and I've been I was very impressed with it in Ratchet and Clank. I thought it was very usable. I was less impressed with it in first person in Portal, especially Portal Prelude, which focus on much faster, time-sensitive portal placements with momentum. Whether this will work in a fast-paced competitive shooter, we'll have to wait and see. But a game like Alan Wake is going to be very much, third-person over-the-shoulder game. It seems pretty easy DLSS 3 game, it's already a good-looking game, and path tracing makes it look even better. We'll get a big surprise announcement, Tony, which made me immediately lose my shit. We have the announcement of Half-Life 2 RTX, an upcoming mod.
Yes. So
in conjunction with modders. So this is different to Portal RTX. So Portal RTX was actually made by Lightspeed. Is it Lightspeed or Lightbridge Studios? Lightspeed Studios. I think it's Lightbridge. Let me look it up. Basically, they're the guy Nvidia Lightspeed Studios. They're the guys who basically they initially ported Portal to the Android, so they could release it on the Nvidia Shield for the Nvidia Shield, and then they made the RTX version with the updated textures, with ray tracing, stuff like that. So that was an in-house Nvidia studio that made the RTX version of Portal. But with the announcement of Half-Life 2 RTX, it's actually coming from a third-party modding team called Orbifold Studios. Now, Orbifold Studios is a modding team made up of developers from Half-Life 2 VR, Half-Life 2 Remade assets, Project 17, which is another VR project for Half-Life 2, and Raising the Bar Redux. And the reason this makes sense to make an RTX remix, you would have to take a DirectX 9 game and essentially you couldn't just flick a switch and turn ray tracing on, because none of the materials would interact with the ray tracing lighting. And a lot of these projects, like Half-Life 2 VR or Half-Life 2 Remade assets or whatever, their goal was already to remake high-quality Half-Life 2 assets in order to use them inside VR. So they've already remade a lot of these assets. And then for the RTX remix, all they would have to do is turn on the lighting properties of these to work with the ray tracing renderer. But it makes a lot of sense that you're taking these people from modding groups that have already been working on remaking models, and we get this gorgeous look at Kleiner's lab running in ray traced mode with these amazing looking models. I cannot wait to play this, but my biggest fear with this, Tony, is Nvidia went, yo, look what Omniverse can do. It can turn Half-Life 2 into RTX, and they've basically gone, these modders are going to make it. And whenever, I don't know, immediately I was like, Sky Oblivion. I was like,
mm-hmm.
there's potential. It's like, this looks so fucking cool, but we have no idea when this is coming out. Like, if you're an efficient video studio, you have deadlines, you have like dedicated people being paid to work on this. It's a lot different from a voluntarily modding group.
My understanding is the structure is like they try and have like similar structures like games did, but obviously like the way that people go in and out is like very different how you have to handle it.
But what we know based on the Orbifold Studios website is they are currently looking for more volunteers to help them make it, which says to me they've put like a lot of effort into making Kleiner's lab, and then they've got a lot more stuff to make. I remember like the Half-Life 2 VR project, the last time I saw it, they'd pretty much only done the opening train station from Half-Life 2. So they've mostly been, and Kleiner's lab is right at the start of the game. So it's possible, that they've front-loaded a lot of this stuff. So we'll have to wait and see. Like, it's hard to talk about these big, ambitious mods until they come out, because a lot of the time, sometimes they fizzle. There's disagreement between the modders or the community, and it just
they
doesn't
learn something
end up
new,
coming out.
They change like their approach.
My fingers are crossed this actually comes out and it's a really cool path traced mod like Portal RTX was. But, when this is coming out, I have no fucking idea. It could be, this year, next year, or in like 5 to 10 years. Who's to say? Let's move on.
2026.
That's your prediction. 2023 is my hope, but wait, the Xbox 720? Hang on, I gotta watch a quick video.
Xbox 720?
The iPhone 2? Guys, when the Wii phone comes out, that's when Half-Life 2... Okay, I love Half-Life 2, and I cannot wait for Half-Life 2 RTX. Oh, Tony, I was looking at mods on ModDB, like the most popular mods that came out this year, because I was like, oh, I want to see if there's any other big mods that came out this year that I missed for the Games of the Year 2023 for the mods category. And I was sorting them by most popular, and I saw one that fucked me up so much that I was like, this is making me feel unwell. It's called Half-Life 2 Mirrored, and it's the entirety of Half-Life 2, but it's mirrored on the other side. And to somebody who's never played Half-Life 2, you could play through the entire thing and go, yeah, there's nothing wrong with that. But watching footage of that made my brain so confused. It was like everything you know and understand is completely... it's there, but it's flipped to the other side. It's so confused. I'll talk about it like by the end of the year, probably.
But to be fair, I'm thinking like if someone... I don't know how you would do this, but someone like rebuilt your house but flipped, right? Would you not be confused with that? Like, I'd be like, you'd be like so set in your ways, and you'd then go and like, wait, why is... You'd be like so hard to like break.
I saw in ModDB by the most popular mods, right? And it was like a Fallout 4 mod, and I was like, well, what's this? And it was like Grounded Commonwealth for Fallout 4. And I'm like, what the fuck is this? It's like a picture of a guy next to the American flag. And it was like, we're taking out this woke garbage. These people were in a vault from the 1950s. They should be more racist. And it's like it's the top mod on ModDB. And I'm like, never underestimate modders' ability to make shit more racist. Obviously, that's an oversimplification of what it's doing, but it's like...
Yeah, I mean, it's probably more in keeping with the... Yeah.
I'll just remind people that modders got banned from Nexus for removing the pride flags from Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
That's kind of dumb. That doesn't make any sense, because there are pride flags in real life, so why would you remove them? That's not realistic.
Yeah. I just thought it was funny that was... the most popular mod that's released this year is Grounded Commonwealth on ModDB. It's like the Minutemen. Yeah. Most of the Minutemen were women. They're now men. You won't find uniformed Minute women patrolling the Commonwealth. It's just like, okay, dude.
Why? Surely there's been... whatever. So basically, it's Fallout 4 Racist Edition. I love it. At least they admit they're racist, I suppose. I mean, that's when it's okay.
I don't know. Like, there's people commenting on this going, I can't believe people are using 1950s authenticity to, basically disguise like anti-wokeness or racism, and it's just like they're getting downvoted to oblivion. It's like, go outside. This is not a mod for you. It's just like, okay.
Yeah, I mean, if you criticize something, you're not allowed to criticize it if it's not for you.
It's always like with people are like, oh, I'm just an authentic fan of history, and I'm like, that's just another way of saying you're racist, dude. Like, we have to authentically treat people like they were treated in history. It's like we're supposed to look at history and learn from their mistakes, not repeat.
Yeah, it depends. Like, it depends like how you do it, right? Because you could argue like fantasy stuff is like a different way of showing, or like even like sci-fi is a different way of having racism in a less bad way. So like it depends how you can have it as long as you respect it and like don't just indulge in it for the sake of it, because that is just racist.
All right, this is a complete tangerine.
That is a complete. Was that we just bring up the mirrored stuff? Is that why you got?
I wanted to talk about Half-Life 2. That's why.
Okay.
Night Dive. They announced some stuff around Gamescom. We're getting a Star Wars Dark Forces remaster. I was like, what the fuck? I said that the unofficial source port of Dark Forces was my mod of the year last year, and it's fucking great. It definitely, it's very, very good, but it's not 100%, the best. There's still stuff to do. But Night Dive is remaking it in the Kex engine with... So it's different from the Force engine. It's got fully remastered cinematics. So they've taken those blocky cinematics and completely remastered them like they did with the Quake 2 remaster. 4K 160, lots of quality of life changes. Looks fucking awesome. As someone who's been playing through Star Wars Dark Forces recently and been like, yeah, this game's really fucking sick, it's cool that it's going to be way more accessible to people through Steam. I believe it's also been announced that this is a paid thing. So as an owner of Star Wars Dark Forces on Steam like me, you're not going to get this as a free update like you did with Quake 2. Obviously, that is a very good deal, getting it as a free update. But I think this is going to be costing around £15. Let me check. I think they gave a number somewhere. I thought I wrote it down. Price. Let's look. Price between $20 to $30. So it will cost like a bit of money to buy. But the Force engine, for example, there wasn't a native or easy Linux version. There was like because of some of the sounds you needed that were part of like Windows or Mac, or it was running on Mac, right? Was it Star Wars Dark Forces that was like a Mac version, or was that like Marathon I'm thinking of? I don't know. Anyway, there was basically a bunch of sounds that were proprietary, so they could not distribute them. So in order to get it running on Linux, you would have to compile it on your Linux PC with these proprietary sounds, which is why they couldn't have like an easy-to-use Linux version. I'm guessing running this under the Kex engine, given I just played Quake 2 Remastered on my Steam Deck, this is going to make Star Wars Dark Forces way easier to run on Linux and way easier to run on Steam Deck. So excited to have that change. Remastered cinematics looks awesome as well. I literally had Star Wars Dark Forces on my to play next list because I downloaded the mod to test it out, and then I played like half the game. And I was like, oh, I want to play it again. It's really fun. But maybe I'll wait for the Dark Forces remaster to come out via Night Dive, because they always do an amazing job, and just play it through their remaster on Steam with the Kex engine. Not only that, Tony, Turok 3 is getting a fucking remaster. So if you don't know what Turok is, it's a Dino FPS that was exclusive to the Nintendo 64. So Night Dive has already done remasters of the first and the second edition that have been available on Steam and GOG, and you can play those. and they're really cool. And you can now play Turok 3. It was literally trapped on the Nintendo 64 like Quake 2 RTX was, but Night Dive has come again to rescue these games that are trapped at low resolution, low frame rate, awful controls, and put them on PC. So again, running in Kex Engine, which I'm at this point the Kex Engine is just pure magic. 4K 120 quality of life changes, Turok 3. Absolutely awesome. Next up, we have Blunders. Pure Dark, the creator of the DLSS 3.2 and DLSS 3 frame generation mods for the popular games such as Red Dead Redemption 2, Jedi Survivor was another one, was quite popular, has now requires you to add an authentication system for his Red Dead Redemption 2 frame gen mod, where you need to first authenticate yourself as a Patreon sub of his in order to use it. So if you're willing to obtain this mod by sailing the high seas, it won't work until you sub to his Patreon. Why is this a bad thing? So, I, for one, hate paywalling mods. I always think it's a bad idea. I would much prefer a donation incentive. I understand that we live in a world where people are much less likely to donate to something rather than pay for it if they have to pay for it.
But again, as I put it, I'm more okay with it. But if you then have to pay for it, it's no longer a mod. Like, it's a product. And
so
have then, in my opinion, legal requirements upheld.
As part of this authentication, you have to have subbed at least once to his £5 a month Patreon. So potentially, it's DRM'd. He's adding DRM to mods. Okay, that's fucked up. To a DRM to a paywalled mod. And so, okay, it's fucked up that, you would have to pay for access to it at least once. But he's like, okay, you don't have to be actively subbed to it. But every time there's an update to the game that the DLSS mod is running on, he needs to release a new version of it in order to get it to work again. And in order to get that new version of the mod and authenticate it, you would have to resub to his Patreon. So in essence, he has created a paywalled DRM subscription service for a game mod, which is fucking insane how awful this is. If people look at this and go, it's not a big deal, it's like, yeah, Horse Armor wasn't a big deal until like every game had microtransactions in it.
Yeah, it's maybe not in of itself, because you might not care about the mod. It's the precedent we're talking about. It's the idea of like what it's been doing we're talking about, not the actual implementation, let's say. But yeah, I feel like if the problem, okay, here's my way of thinking of this. If the problem is you need to like get money, like you're a modder, right? Fine, like you want to like. I'm not going to argue with people whether it should or shouldn't be like your full-time job. Let's just say it is. If the problem is like you're trying to get money for this, like surely there are better incentives you could do to get people in to sub to your, like, surely just like showing and like being enthusiastic about modding and like explaining it, and like that would bring more people in, and like then at the end of like showing it, please support me on Patreon.
Obviously this is slightly different, but it just reminds me of our good friend Gary Bowser, who got in trouble for adding a subscription services to pirated Nintendo games, and that didn't work out too well for him. And people have pointed out,
Bowser,
so long, gay Bowser. Charles Martinet is gone. People have pointed out, in order to get this to work, he has to distribute Nvidia DLLs, which I think he doesn't include through Patreon, but he sends to people through Discord to get around this. But people are saying those are copyright, like Nvidia specifically, explicitly doesn't allow you to use their DLLs for commercial use, which would include charging for them. And if those are required to get this to run, I don't know.
Well, it's arguable that you're not charging for them, you're just including them. But yeah, it's so incredibly dubious, and I would assume they would lose the core.
I think this is shit, and I do not. Yeah. I've never support paywalled mods.
No, there are better ways. If the idea is funding is the problem, there are better ways you could go around this.
Myself personally, I will always support mods supported through donations, and if the game developer wants to purchase a mod and bring them on as a third-party developer and implement that into the game, I will support that as well. I'm more than happy to pay for mods that are being supported by a developer, but the idea of charging for mods and then a paywall DRM subscription service is not something I would like to engage with.
No, that I think this is like 10, like this is an order of magnitude worse than paid mods, where I can at least see like an idea that could make sense. But again, you have to make sure it's now a product that's selling.
Speaking of modding, our good friends Iridetta over at Denuvo. They're implementing a new modding protection designed to prevent the modification of Unreal Engine 4 games. So,
why?
Their idea is they want to add a new protection to the base level binary data of the Unreal Engine. So they're phrasing it as they're thwarting data mining attempts, creating barriers against cheat creators, against pirates,
why is this a problem?
And fraudsters. And it's shielding the Unreal Engine game data files against decryption and blocking the use of the in-game debug consoles and conceals entry points to deter game modifications. They're saying this is going to stop data miners and hackers and pirates, but also at the same time, this is completely blocking game mods.
Also, surely that's not true, because you can run the game. I would see this as a hurdle, not a block. But yeah, why would you not block modding?
And
that's insane.
This could be implemented at a base level like solution for all Unreal Engine 4 games, which is kind of nuts.
I'm anti blocking modding of games. That's just a terrible idea. Like, I feel, in my opinion, like 2K is awful for like going after modding stuff. It's like, just like embrace it. Like, I feel like Bethesda has done so much better because of embracing mods. Like, I don't think they would have the same appeal without it.
Yeah. Well, speaking of our good friends over at Denuvo, they've now Denuvo Security is now on Switch, introducing new tech to block PC Switch emulation. There is now a middleware tech that now adds DRM to Nintendo Switch games. Thanks, Denuvo.
Thank God. Can we just stop funding Denuvo, please? Can we just stop giving them money? If you're a game publisher or developer,
speaking of Gary Bowser, apparently he's been released from jail recently, but he's going to pay Nintendo 25 to 30% of his income for the rest of his life in order to pay the 14.5 million damage charges he owes Nintendo. Currently, he's paid $175 of that. So hopefully,
my understanding is you don't actually have to pay it. It's just like they don't.
They pretty much garnish the wages.
Yes, yeah. The idea is like they don't expect you to be able to pay it, but they then now take like a tax from what you earn to then pay off this fee. And obviously, if you suddenly become a billionaire, you can then you have to pay it.
Yeah, this is. I don't know. This is going to. So the Switch is an offline device, and Denuvo works by connecting to a server. I think it would be very harmful for the Switch to require online verification to play offline games, such as the Denuvo requirement. But if this is, they've said it's a middleware, right? So it could be just the idea of protecting the files from being easily extracted. Nintendo's protection for their game files for years has been fucking laughable. Like the way that they protected their Wii U game files is like insanely stupid. Like Nintendo just does not understand how to protect themselves from having this stuff happen to them, and having to go to like such an extreme length of Denuvo is obviously not a great answer if they want to protect their games from piracy. But
are these two de novo stories related? Maybe because it makes a lot of sense if they're locking down like the actual files to be encrypted, and then this is a lot harder to
the
read.
previous technology was specifically for Unreal Engine 4 games, whereas this is specifically for the Switch.
Yeah. But I'm still wondering if it's.
This is the first of the tools Denova is offering to Switch developers is the Nintendo Switch Emulation Protection, the NUSEP, a revolutionary technology to protect games launching on Nintendo Switch from piracy. So if it detects that the Switch game is being launched from a Switch emulator, it will just shut off and it won't let you play.
Right. So basically it's taking a key from a hardware key and then just... Okay, sure. I still feel like this is hackable. I feel like these are all like touted as like perfect blocks.
I mean, Denova is usually hacked within the first 2 weeks of it coming out.
Exactly.
What happens is every single person who legally buys a copy is punished by having to always be online and having reduced performance. So
that's what I mean. It's like this is my problem with like the previous stories. Like
according to certain users,
because you have to run the game, like you can always kind of see what the binaries are doing, so that you can kind of like backtrack. Like it's a pain in the ass, but it's manageable, and once the work is done, you've done it forever. And and as you point out, like if you've made a barrier where the paid version is worse than the free version, like you're really shooting yourself in the head.
We've got a minute on so we're getting to the old 3-hour podcast mark.
You're not about that.
Well, we've got a bit more news to get through. The Xbox 360 store will close on July 2024, but you can keep playing your favorite games. Backwards compatible 360 titles can still be purchased on newer systems. Still, only about a quarter of the 360's library is playable on Xbox One Series S and X. That's about 633 games out of the total 2,154. According to VGC, more than 220 digital games will disappear when the Xbox 360 store closes.
We're going to pirate them and back them up.
We know that when Sony announced that the PS3 store was shutting down, enough uproar was made in the community that they decided against it and they left it open and then sneakily shut down the PSP store instead. So, I don't know.
I think I don't have a problem with closing this down if, like, I just feel like, okay.
So, just to get
preservation mode.
Every single game that is currently backwards compatible will still be purchasable on the new systems of the Xbox One,
which is
fantastic systems.
To be clear.
But there are games that are not backwards compatible and are stuck in license hell, and the only way to play them is on an Xbox 360. So are we just saying, we need some of that Xenia emulation, or what's going on here? Like, that might legitimately be the only way to preserve the games.
I just think if you're going to close down a store, I think you should just have them to start to talk to in like digital archivers. I just feel like you just have to do that.
Yeah.
And also, I guess as well, legally, these digital archivers need more rights and protections because they keep getting screwed over.
How long do you think that Microsoft needs to support the Xbox 360 store for? If you were to give a number. What
in terms of what for the average person, or just in terms of archiving in general?
How long does a store need to be open for you to be satisfied?
I'm saying if you pass it over and all the code is like given to archivers, it can be as long as you want. If the store is required for the archiving to exist, then it has forever, I suppose. If it's, I don't know, 20 years at minimum, I suppose. If it's like the current status quo of just giving up. But I just feel like in the attempt to try and get every game archived, I just feel like
I think so I think the big problem is every game that they could do backwards compatibility with, they did. But the problem is they can't archive the games that are only available digitally because they don't own the licenses to them.
No,
and the license only covers them being run on the original Xbox 360. So the problem is the only way to play them is through the Xbox 360 store. And the problem with that is they can't keep the 360 store open forever.
No. But you're thinking of in terms of a store. I'm thinking in terms of what's running on a server. Like they have servers that can run it. So I'm still fine with it has to be run on a 360. But someone else that isn't Microsoft or Xbox takes control of it. An archiving company, like a mail company. It's not like a charity to make this like more palatable to the people who own the rights to these games. Would take control of the server and it's no longer a store. Like you can't buy it anymore.
So
it's entirely there for preservation.
How many games?
It's in museum mode at that point. So you give them the files to the server. They transfer the server files to the preservation group, and they then on their own personal Xboxes in their museum they allow it to run. It's like how I envisage this. And then the license is still correct.
There's been 719 games released on the Xbox Live Arcade. I wonder how many of those games exist on other platforms. Like, I own games on my 360 on the Xbox Live Arcade. Like, I made a game with zombies in it, which was like a funny twin stick shooter on the Xbox Live Arcade, and it was great. But luckily, there's a Steam version that's free to play. Which is awesome, but
I think it'd be nice to preserve that game. Yeah, I think in terms of preservation, and like I'm definitely like a preservation. Like I don't want anything to disappear. Like I want everything to be archived. I think for most people, most of the games they care about are protected. They don't care. Like the games.
There's a free to play version of this on Steam. I'm gonna add it to my library.
It's your library. Yeah. I think maybe like another solution to this is like maybe we don't have such like archaic licensing rules. Like maybe we have more open licensing rules to begin with to allow it to run on different software, different hardware.
That's like how I played stacking originally. It was released on the Xbox Live Arcade, I believe, and that's how I played it. So
yeah, I think Xbox Arcade was like pretty good back in the day. Like it was a good idea.
Next up we have on Blunders. Luck Be a Landlord is now banned in 13 countries on the Google Play Store. So Luck Be a Landlord is a roguelike deck builder about using a slot machine to earn rent money and defeat capitalism. The game does not contain any real-world currency gambling or microtransactions. Google Play has geo-blocked and removed Luck Be a Landlord in 13 countries on the Google Play Store because of an issue found of a violation of the gambling policy. Oh, okay. So this game features 0 actual gambling, but for some reason the fake gambling has flagged it as a gambling game, which means it's banned in a lot of these countries, like mostly in Middle East, it seems like, and South Korea.
Islamic law does not allow gambling.
Right. So Jetpack Joyride, a game with a literal slot machine mechanic, is rated E10+ and isn't geo-blocked. Dicey Dungeons, a game with themes of luck and rolling dice, isn't geo-blocked. A literal clone of my game, which received 6 million in venture capital, is somehow rated E for everyone and isn't geo-blocked, despite literally having a battle pass and random chance microtransactions.
Yeah, how is battle pass and microtransaction stores not gambling? Like every gacha game gambling, but like this game that isn't that is gambling.
Yeah, it's a game.
Like I would have said all other games are gambling, and this one wasn't, if anything.
This feels like just a huge oversight from Google, I think.
Yeah,
the game's still up. The game's still up on Steam and iOS, but I think
Fuck Google.
I think Google just has too many automated robot systems and not enough people that look at this sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. And
someone might have flagged it, but oh my god, that's dumb.
But yeah, Luck Be a Landlord is a game I've been interested in playing for a while. Like I've had it on my radar, so it's a shame it's been banned from the Android Google Play Store.
Guys, add it to your wish list and on Steam. They deserve it.
Next up, our final blunder, Tony. Zonitron Silicon Echo are back. The previously banned Steam developer got banned for spamming almost 200 games onto Steam across 15 different accounts. So Steam was like, these 12 publishers are the same person, and they're basically like, they're releasing the same game over and over again in order to like try and abuse Steam trading cards, I think it was. And then they basically banned all of their games, the publishers and the developers, from ever being on Steam. And because they basically said they were just flooding the store with low effort games that were unequivocally just garbage.
Those scammers. That is, I think that's a valid termination of a contract.
I think it was
back with a brand new track.
Back with a brand new track. Da, 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 da. But yeah, it seems like Epic's opened the floodgates for trash. Endless trash is ready. I just saw something that I remembered that was news that was announced, but we have to talk about it next week because there's not enough time.
Okay.
Okay. VR news. I've put No Man's Sky's Echoes here because there's a brand new No Man's Sky update, and as well as adding mechanical life forms, outlaw capital ships, a multi-tool salvaging, and a priest entity Nada. Join minds with her to investigate me and perhaps prevent the mysterious robot autophage. They've added foveated rendering to the PSVR 2 version. So there is now foveated rendering in No Man's Sky on PSVR 2, which is really cool to see.
It'd be great to play this game without Vaseline rubbing your eyes.
Yep. You played No Man's Sky on the PS4, right? And the PSVR 1, right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes. It was very blurry.
Business news. We have Saudi-backed Savvy Games was the mysterious partner in collapsed $2 billion Embracer deal. We were talking about this previously, that Embracer was cutting staff as this deal didn't go through. Activision Blizzard games are coming to Ubisoft Plus, so they've done an agreement to include the complete slate of current Activision Blizzard games, as well as all of their new titles launching in the next 15 years after closing of Microsoft's acquisition of Activision Blizzard. This game will land on Ubisoft Plus, which will allow Ubisoft to license them to cloud gaming companies, service providers, and console makers. It seems like they're trying to get that CMA complaint closed in the UK by saying, hey, we're putting our cloud stuff on Ubisoft Plus. We're competing.
Yeah, I believe that's like the I think the complaint, they had to get rid of like X amount of IP to another third-party company. I think that was, I think that's the deal.
Let's move on to Gamescom trailers and end the podcast. I know it's been a long one, but there's been so much news this week. Sonic Frontiers, the Final Horizon update teaser, Tony. September 28th. Finally, more Sonic Frontiers. Let's go, dude. I saw this. I saw this. I was like, I just played Sonic Frontiers. I cannot believe they're adding more like Sonic Frontiers to it. So I think it's been announced there's going to be new story and new challenge. I think there's like actual content, because the previous one was like jukeboxes, but there's new challenges, story, and playable characters. So,
thank God.
But I doubt they're going to fix the game. So we'll have to, wait for the next masterpiece from Sega Team.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like that's a meme.
Oh, and Sonic Superstars got a new trailer, showing off the multiplayer trailer. So you can play Sonic Superstars in multiplayer. I think this was previously announced, but we actually get gameplay showing this off, which is cool to see. That, like Sonic Mania, you're going to be able to play this like fully co-op. Oh, I've only ever played Sonic Mania's co-op through remote play, and that was not a great experience from what I remember.
Right.
But I think this game looks genuinely pretty fun. Like the retro style Sonic games are usually a lot better than the 3D ones, but I'll have to wait and see. Killing Floor 3 got an announcement. This is like, what? This just seems like it came out of nowhere. Yeah, so this is going to be running in Unreal Engine 5. It's 6-player co-op FPS coming soon to you. I liked Killing Floor 1, but I never got into Killing Floor 2, and it seems like for Killing Floor 2, they just added a bunch of microtransactions in, and it was very unpopular that they added all the microtransactions in. It reminds me of what happened with Payday. Payday 1 was super popular. I really liked Payday 1. Payday 2 came out, I was like, this is cool. And then they released 1 billion microtransactions. I'm like, fuck this game. I'm not buying 50 DLCs. And then suddenly they're like, Payday 3. And it's just like, what? This just came out of nowhere. It's just like, okay. I'd be interested to see, how much of this game comes with the game and how much you have to buy later on. But it looks pretty impressive running in Unreal Engine 5. So, yeah. Next up, we have Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty New Ways to Play. So we have new weapons, new vehicles, vehicular combat perks, improved cyberware, better cops AI, increased level cap, endless missions, and more. But a big announcement from this trailer was that they announced that some of these features will also be coming to the base game as a free update. So even if you do not buy Cyberpunk 2077 Phantom Liberty, you will be able to experience the new features as part of the base game, which is really cool to see.
Well, my understanding is like they're doing a big upgrade or big change, like how the
I've heard people saying
the
like
cyberwares work.
The Phantom Liberty stuff is like they're pretty much massively overhauling the game in a lot of respects. But we'll have to wait and see.
I don't know if it's in the update or on the expansion, but yeah, they're finally making the police work properly.
Because I watched Cyberpunk Edge Runners, right? And Cyberpunk Edge Runners goes massively into cyber kinetics and cyberware and cyber psychosis. And I was like, cyber psychosis is really fucking cool in Edge Runners. I wonder how it works in Cyberpunk 2077. And I watched and I talked to someone who played the game, and I was like, oh, it seems like it's like a debuff, and there's not really that much drawback to installing that much cyberware.
It should be like an extreme version of like Deus Ex, right? It's like I would think.
Well, in Cyberpunk Edge Runners, like people go like there's like massive tolls on your body for using cyberware, and people start going like fucking insane and having hallucinations, and then they turn into a cyber psycho, which basically means they get into like a massive fight with a trauma squad and basically are like get gunned down by the police. So it's like, as soon as you go into cyber psychosis, it's like your game would be over at that point, basically, in like Edge Runner terms, because you would basically be like death by insanity.
So, my thing of the new update is like they're changing it so there actually are much more debuffs. And like, so
I would love like
if you launch an existing save, you're going to have a lot more debuffs. You have to do a quest to like
imagine a hardcore mode for Cyberpunk 2077 with like cyber psychosis game ending gameplay. That would be fucking sick.
Yeah, it'd be cool.
Anyway. Oh, Tony, our good friends over at Blizzard had an announcement at Gamescom. Diablo 4 Season 2, baby. Season of the Blood. Log in. Let's go, dude. It shows you how little faith they have in Season 1, that the season's been out for like, I would say like 3 weeks or something like that, and they've immediately gone, Season 2's coming. Get hyped. Like, for example...
Yeah, because... They normally show it for 3 months, right? Like normally,
they didn't reveal the Season 1 trailer this early. It was within 2 weeks of the expansion, the Season 1 coming out, that they showed the trailer. But the current season of Diablo is halfway through, so they've pretty much just gone, we have no faith in Season 1. Please play Season 2, is what this seems like. And, I don't know, from what we see in the trailer, it seems like that you can now get blood powers instead of malignant powers. It's like, okay. There's that Asian woman from Humans is going to be a voice actor as a character.
Oh yeah. The mother robot.
I've never seen the show, but I know vaguely of her. As a British voice actor. Yeah, she was a Chan. And I think they have announced the they announced this previously that Season 2 was the Gem Stash tab, which is like insane that they launched the game without the Gem tab. There's Gem. I like how there's no Gem tab, and then in Season 1 they're like, by the way, guys, we're releasing these Malignant Hearts, which are more gems, so you can fill your inventory up with those.
I saw someone say that they fixed the gem problem by adding something that wasn't gems to be even more of a problem.
Yeah, it's like... But vampire... So they're adding new end game bosses, which the game sorely needs, which I'm like, cool.
Okay, they're adding it in the right place then, yeah.
There's new like vampire creatures, and they have, I think they announced they're adding the ability to actually search your stash, which is how they didn't release with that, where you just can't find anything in your fucking stash in that game.
Is it the same excuse they gave for like, the gem or the stash storage in general? It's just like, oh, it'd have to load everyone on the map for some reason.
Stash can be searched. No, they said if they added an extra stash tab, that would break the game. So you're not getting any more stash space, which is already tiny, which is 4 stash tabs that are shared across every single character you make, which is fucking insane.
It's a limitation of the engine.
But yeah. Status effects, update elemental resistance system, vulnerable, overpowered, and critical strike damage updates. Gems have their own tab, and stash can be searched and filtered. It's like basic quality of life updates are now a season feature for Diablo. This is like, for any other RPG, this would be insane. This would be like, this is a joke.
Oh, Blizzard. They're just a small indie company. You can't.
Speaking of ARPGs, why don't you play Last Epoch instead? Because they're getting an update on September 7th. The Runes of Power patch is coming 0.9.2. It's still in early access, but apparently it's got much better content than Diablo 4. So if you're looking to play a good ARPG, try out Last Epoch. Try Path of Exile. Path of Exile 2 is coming out next year. Try out fucking Minecraft Dungeons. It's probably better than Diablo 4 at this point. To be fair to Diablo 4, I think Diablo 4 as a baseline, I'm just going to play the campaign and stop experience is fine. As a ARPG or as a feature that makes you want to grind to the end game and fight big bosses, capstone bosses and uber bosses, it's fucking terrible. It like past level 50 when you finish the campaign, there is like no reason to keep playing the game.
My question is, with all the nerfs in season 1, is it still a good campaign thing, or do you not have to experience those changes?
I think the nerfs are less noticeable as you're leveling.
Okay.
So I think like as a campaign experience, if you're just going to play it as like, I just want to play an action single player RPG game, Diablo 4 is fine, but it's like, it's just a flawed ARPG in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
Where we've come to expect so much more from. So Diablo 3 released and people went, oh, it's cool, it's Diablo, but this could be so much more. And people were like, PoE, Last Epoch, tons of other ARPGs came out and went, look, we've improved on the Diablo 3 formula. So people went, Diablo 4 is coming out. Obviously, they're going to learn from the mistakes of other developers, and they're going to learn that people want these new features. And then they were like, no. Fuck them. Last Epoch looks good, though. Killer Clans from Outer Space. We have gameplay trailer from this. So this was announced just like a teaser picture, right? It was like this weird horror film from the 70s is getting like a isometric multiplayer horror game, and they've actually released gameplay from it now. So it's going to be 3v7 asymmetrical horror game, and you either play as clowns taking out the survivors, and the survivors can run, hide, and fight back against some very hungry killer clowns. So we've seen the fighting back mechanic before in games like last year, the Nightmare tried this with the ability to get like baseball bats and the ability to get like sort of like stun guns, like sort of a soft fight back mechanic where I think you could eventually kill the killer, but then the killer would respawn. And then in stuff like, I think in Friday the 13th, you could sort of fight back Jason to sort of stun him and then run away. I love the pizza box with fucking legs attached to it. I think like from a visual standpoint, this game looks really like wacky and fun. I'm hoping that the gameplay is as fun. Like, obviously, I'm a bit worried whenever survivors can have guns to shoot the clowns, but whether this is more like a combat-based RPG and whether that could work in the horror genre. I mean, this is obviously...
Well, it looks like their weapons are far worse than the clowns.
Yeah. Hopefully this is good. It looks really cool. It's really interesting, and we don't, have too many games in the genre. We're getting more like we just got the cool Texas Chainsaw Massacre, which seems really good.
Yeah.
But hopefully there's more. Grime 2 got announced. So there's a sequel to the awesome Metroidvania Souls-like 3D platforming game called Grime. This is what I was alluding to earlier. We did a spotlight on Grime or a Tangerine, and I thought it was really fun. It was the first sort of Souls-like kind of game I played. I thought it was really good. So seeing it get a sequel is really fucking cool. I'm excited to see how this works out. I believe I own Grime, actually. I think I got it in a bundle. Okay. No, I am not looking for UK rap when I type Grime into Steam. I have it. It was given away free as Twitch Prime, so I have it on Amazon Games. So I might play that at some point after I play Blasphemous on Amazon Games. We'll have to wait and see how long it takes. My backlog is so massive that when I say I'm going to play a game, it really just depends, how many thousands of other games are ahead of it in the backlog.
And how you're feeling.
Yeah. But this looks really cool. And I love the new look of the character as well.
Yeah.
Like the sort of like elemental look where you're turning between like the white stuff, which I can only assume is come. And then like word and stuff like that. Yeah, obviously. But yeah, Grime, we played the demo. The demo is still available for the original Grime, so that's cool to see. But yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, that's and the world is like very imaginative. I like
finally, we got gameplay footage for Warhammer 40k, and it looks fucking phenomenal. It looks so good. So it's being made by Saber, and if you don't know, Saber Interactive did the World War Z game, which is the zombie game with hundreds of zombies just piling on top of each other. I personally really love that game. I got it free on Epic, and I put I think I put like 20, 30 hours into it through multiplayer. That game is really like underrated and fun, and I think the engine they were using to like just have your screen flooded with zombies is really cool. And now we're getting to see what happens when you take a Space Marine versus millions of Tyranids. And yeah, I'm a little sad we don't get the green skins anymore, but
well, maybe they come in later and help. I don't know.
It seems a bit. Space Marine 1 wasn't super cartoony, but it was a little bit more like on the wackier side of like orcs, like just believing they have magic and just shooting themselves out of cannons and stuff like that. Like
orcs are inherently more wacky.
Yeah, we've seen like the Speed Freaks, which is like super wacky of like orcs like shooting themselves off on rockets at people's cars and blowing each other up.
What I quite like from Space Marine 1 is like it's not like the humans are like, oh look how funny this is. It's like they just treat it as like this is stupid how they're even doing that. That's just these are a massive threat and they take it very seriously and lots of people have died.
I still don't have the answer to my question of how this is going to link from Space Marine 1 to Space Marine 2 without spoiling the story of Warhammer Space Marine 1. It left off on a bit of a cliffhanger. So I
don't see a problem with like this is because he left, came back. What's wrong with that?
But the way it ends, so without going to spoil, the way it ends, it's something you might not come back from. It was a bit it was very ambiguous how Warhammer 1 ends.
I suppose. Okay.
Is it the same character? So Captain Titus is confirmed to be the protagonist of Space Marine 2. Yeah, we'll have to wait and see how they tie the stories together. I'll be interested to see whether they just go, it was all a dream, or they actually have like a compelling story at the beginning. But obviously, I'll be playing this for the gameplay either way. So really excited to play this one.
I like
this
a Space Marine perspective is still good. So I guess like some story, but yeah, gameplay first for sure, and like theme, and after that, and then I guess lore bits after that. I suppose
it seems like there's some sort of like quick counter system they put in. I mean, the gunplay can't be like the controls can't be as dumb as they were in Space Marine. It was like control to shoot and stuff like that, like the old school. It seems like they have updated the controls. They put in a controller as well, so we'll have to wait and see how it works on the mouse keyboard. But I'm assuming it's gonna control pretty much like an action game on what we've seen. It looks really cool. And it seems like there is a mix of like high intense battle action intermixed from the more slower sections, and you can have that combat sword, you can have that knife, you can have the different. You can switch between the weapons mid combat, which is something you could do in Warhammer 1, which is really cool. It's like, oh, I'm going to take a sniper for this section. I'm going to take a bolt gun for this section, or something like that. Where you would have these drops from the sky, and that would change how you wanted to play the game based on what enemies you were going to be facing. And I think that was a really cool part of Space Marine 1. So it's cool to see that sort of stuff is back. But yeah, that was Gamescom this year. I didn't watch it live like I usually do with some of the stuff. I kind of forgot it was on, and I also I watched I started watching halfway through it, and then we did some Tangerine recordings for a bit as well, so I didn't watch the whole thing. So if I missed anything, we know
about it later, right? If we
can find something I tried to look up recaps, but this seems to be some of the most interesting stuff that was shown off that I could see.
Yeah.
And it was great to see Summer Jeff Fest. Great to see German Jeff Fest, and excited to see the Jeff Awards when those come out later at the end of the year. So
yeah.
Oh, did I send you the clip? Apparently, somebody else rushed the stage at this award show.
You didn't see it, but I heard of it. Yeah.
I found the clip and I posted it in the Discord, but some guy rushed the stage and he came on stage. And he was like, I think it was, I can't remember which game was being shown off, but it basically was like, I want to play GTA 6, and then was promptly arrested.
Right.
But apparently he did it 2 days before at like a German football event. I was like, how the fuck are these people getting on stage? I don't understand.
Well, just act like you're
act like you belong. Sort of meant it. Yeah. Wear a yellow high-vis jacket and you can walk into any building. Oh, Marvel Snap is also on Steam. I mentioned that because Ben Brode was on the stage, and I love Ben Brode, so there you go.
Okay.
I'm not particularly interested in Marvel Snap. Particularly, it looks okay, but
I like Ben Brode though.
I love Ben Brode, and it seems like he's doing well with his new second dinner company, so that's always cool to see.
Yeah, he's having fun at least.
I feel like Ben Brode's never a man you need to mic up. He will just his voice will just travel. Yeah, his voice will project and travel.
That's funny.
Yeah. That's the end of the podcast, and we will see you next time. There's no new Molydeux tweets, so I'm just going to read out an old one and hope I haven't read it out before. No. Imagine a third-person action game where the more you engage in combat, the less intelligent you become, resulting in puzzles becoming more difficult to solve.
I would assume, though, the combat would get easier, but the puzzles would get harder, is what I'm thinking.
It just reminds me of, the low intelligence runs in, Fallout New Vegas. It just completely changed.
With a system where you could lose intelligence with a concussion. I could see that. Or maybe, you could, get more radioactive abilities, but it requires you to lose other stats. I could see that.
So we got some replies. From repeated blows to the head, or a judgment call based on your decision to resort to violence. The latter. Definitely the latter. Somebody said, that's the Uncharted games that we're drinking. I was throwing back a few beers after work while playing Uncharted 3, and suddenly I was so hammered, I couldn't figure out a basic lineup, some weight puzzles. Kids, don't drink. There we go.
It's true.
Check us out, and at Everything In Between Podcast is our YouTube handle. If you type that into youtube.com/ you'll get straight to our channel. Twitch.tv/Scorn if you want to watch live. At Scorn2000 if you want to follow me there for some reason. And shows.acast.com/everything-in-between-podcast. There will be links to the Apple Podcast version and the Spotify version. And we will see you next time. Goodbye.
Bye.